and welcome to the Lake Mills Parks Board meeting of July 14th, 2025. It is now 5:30, and we will begin the meeting. The roll call, Tim Sprecher.
Mary Schmager.
Jacob Slobby, present.
Anita Martin here.
Thank you. The agenda for the evening is, I'll just go through it. It's the call to order, the roll call. We'll do a Parks and Forestry Director's report from Eric. 4 is the Parks Board minutes, review and approval of the June 9th, 2025 minutes. 5 will be other public comments, including emails. And again, if you are going to comment, please sign in at the podium. Item 6 is new business, discussion recommendation, review of holiday decorations, procedures, and separation of duties as drafted by Legendary Lake Mills. And there is a document that is available on the website. We also have a document here if anybody would like to see that. Second point of is discussion recommendation and develop Parks Board recommendation for the City Council Resolution 2519 Sandy Beach Recreational Developments. 7 is announcements. 8 is create a next meeting agenda and continue discussion of the resolution if necessary. And also B is introduce and review procedure for a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. Number 9, next meeting is at August 12th, Monday at 5:30. And 10 will be an adjournment. So given our number 3, Parks and Forestry Director's report, Eric, would you please take the floor?
Yep, any questions, please let me know. I'll keep it fairly brief for the sake of time this evening. The Milton Street Road construction project is underway with the first tree protection zones being implemented. We do have a contract arborist on that site, and we've been touching base with them regularly. We've held our first progress meeting for that, and there will be regular progress meetings going throughout with the contractors. And our new gravel bed system for our trees and our nursery has been doing well. That has postponed our planting as it is taking a little bit longer as we go through this process, but West Lake Street will be completed, the remainder of it on the 21st, followed up by other areas of the city. The largest priority for the department currently is daily parks maintenance and upkeep. That's the utmost priority for the department as a whole, balancing weather conditions, changing priorities, and just our general property maintenance needs. Town and Country Days was a success, at least in my opinion, as far as setup within the park. Everything was very streamlined. A lot of that helps with collaboration and coordination with the other event coordinators. Currently, we're doing a car count study for visitors down at Sandy Beach. That'll be one of the things that will be one of the data points reviewed as we go forward with the Sandy Beach process. And we did redo all of the playground wood chips at all the remaining non-pre-surfaced or non-rubber surfaced playgrounds, including the repair of some of the borders and replacement of some of the playground borders. And other than that, we did have the permanent bike rack installed at Bartles Beach, the memorial plaque from Cassandra, I forget her name, my apologies, but that will be installed as soon as possible. Other than that, any questions?
I have a question, Eric, and for the repair of the Commons turf from Carnival Equipment, is that something that they pay for, or is that something we pay for?
It's kind of one of the things to where it's an expected thing that happens within the park when there's that much equipment that's being used. At least we do coordinate with the actual equipment operators when they pull them into the park. Track mats are used. This is more of dead areas from the track mats being on and some indentations on the areas. They're really good at limiting as much as possible, so I can see it as kind of a expectation that it happens within the park, but limited as much as possible, and they have been very easy to work with. I haven't pursued rebuilding them, but it wouldn't be a huge deal to me to really go after that. It's not something I'd be.
It wasn't like any inconsiderate.
No, not by any means. It'd be a lot different if it was negligence or anything like that, but they've been very easy to work with through it.
Thank you. Yes, Mary.
I have one comment and one question. First of all, the comment, big kudos and thank you to you and your team for the amazing job you did in cleaning up at least Bartles Beach on the 4th of July weekend. There were more cars going down South Ferry than I've ever seen in the 9 years that I've lived here. And the next morning at 7:30, as I drove by Bartles Beach, it looked like no one had been at the park. So the cleanup was immaculate, incredibly quick, and quite impressive. So thanks to you and all of your team. That was really pretty awesome.
I'll relay that to staff. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And then I have a question. An update on the Sandy Beach tree health assessment. I think you had mentioned they had it all leaf out, and so do you have a date on when we might see something about
Still
that?
underway. We are actually, or we did have oak wilt samples collected. We're waiting on some results from the, I forget, I think it's the horticulture labs or something like that within the UW-Madison system. So waiting on some results from that. I would expect that they would be published at least or available sometime soon. I was hoping that it would be available for the actual recommendation point at this point. They will be available as we go forward with further concepts within Sandy Beach. At this time, I would expect within this month, I think would be reasonable.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments on the report? All right, if not, let's go to item number 4, which is Park Board minutes, review and approval of the June 9, 2025 minutes.
I will make a motion to amend the minutes to remove the item 6B comment that Chair Sprecher is emphasizing something specific, which I don't think is relevant to the minutes. And then I would like to suggest that amendment and then approval.
Okay, is there any specific language that we're striking, Mary?
I would strike the sentence that starts with Chair Sprecher
Okay,
in 6B, the entire sentence. I think it's not relevant to, it's specific, and I think it was just a comment you made in general sense, not that it notes need to be noted in the minutes.
yeah, thank you. Any other corrections, changes to the Parks Board minutes? If not, do I have a motion to accept the Parks Board minutes of June 9th as amended?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
All right, do I have a second?
Second, the motion to approve as amended.
All right, thank you. And approval, aye.
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 All right, so the Parks Board minutes are approved as amended. And thank you, Mary, for that catch. Let's move then to the other public comments, including emails. And if you had arrived recently, please, if you're going to speak, put your name and address up on the sign-in sheet at the podium, if you would, please. If you're not going to speak, I'm going to go get the list and invite our presenters. So Tom, would you please present, again, 3 minutes or less, if you would, please?
My name is Tom Krejci, and I am here representing the Rock Lake Improvement Association Board. As I mentioned during the public information meeting, the Rock Lake Improvement Association will fund a restoration ecology firm to assist the city and their engineers in developing a plan to capture and bioremediate stormwater at Sandy Beach. The purpose of this plan is fourfold. 1, to improve beach health and safety by mitigating Canadian geese, which are known vectors for E. coli. Number 2, to reduce occurrences of algae blooms by controlling nutrient and sediment runoff into Rock Lake. This action would also reduce the support of seagulls' naturally preferred food source. Number 3, to improve water quality by capturing petrochemical runoff from paved areas. Number 4, to protect the overall ecology of Rock Lake for generations to come. Initially, the consultant, Native Range Ecological, will, if permitted, review Mead and Hunt supporting data and documentation to determine the size, shapes, locations, and functionality of the naturalized plantings and other green infrastructure within the park. Number 2, develop a comprehensive restoration plan for the installation and maintenance of functional native plantings. This plan will be wide-ranging from soil specifications, plant or seed recommendations, detailed maintenance plans, and projected timelines. However, for this partnership to succeed, the RLIA's investment to meaningfully assist our community, Native Range Ecological will need to work closely with Mead and Hunt as well as Strand. Fortunately, there already is a working relationship since Native Range Ecological has worked with both firms on other projects. Understandably, the city needs to let their planning and engineering firms that the city wants them to work cooperatively with Native Range Ecological. In the upcoming months, we look forward to estimating the cost of this feature of Sandy Beach's infrastructure, as well as working with the Joint Rock Lake Committee to include them in these efforts. Sandy Beach's redesign has the chance to impact our community as much as the creation of Korth Park did 25 years ago. And just like today's project, the success of Korth Park was attributed to the collaboration between the community and local governments. We are ready to proceed as soon as the Parks Board gains the City Council's support at their August 5th meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Can you just stay there for just a moment in case the board has any questions? Any questions for Tom as to the presentation and offering? Mary, go ahead.
Oh, no, just thank you, because your clear set of objectives are helpful, and you've brought them to 2 meetings, and so thank you for the RLIA support for working towards making Sandy Beach a healthier and more lovely place, and so appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And Tom, I have a question as to the bold, if permitted. Whom are you looking to get permission from?
Well, as I mentioned farther down, the city would have to tell Mead and Hunt and Strand and others, if appropriate, that they would expect cooperation. I mean, Mead and Hunt has no reason to turn over plans to the ecological, Native Range Ecological, unless they were told to do so.
Okay. And then any other questions as to the proposal and offering? All right, well, thank you very generous. And I know you've been very generous with this, and the timelines to be determined, but that's going to be probably a number of months, maybe even a year, would you guess? Any idea what the timeline might be?
Our support is for, I think, about 30 hours of work. So it depends on who's doing what when.
Okay.
I mean, because our contact with Native Range Ecological said the plans that you showed us last time were basically landscape architectural plans. And they would need to see much more detailed contour lines, et cetera, to figure out where water actually flows.
Okay.
And how those contours would be changed by landscaping
Okay.
to capture the waters.
So thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
And we'll put that in as Exhibit A for comments. Other public comments, Hope, please.
Hope Osdike, W8357, Cedar Lane, Town of Lake Mills. also chairperson of the Main Street Design Committee. What you have on your agenda later tonight is the topic that I am here to talk about, which is the holiday decor sort of paperwork. We've been talking about this for a long time. I'll just give you a little backstory on it. This was something that came up over the last 3 to 5 years. We've had a little trouble coordinating all of our holiday decorations. There's been some disappointments on the part of the Friends of the Library and also on from some of the merchants. So at the suggestion of Vicki Wycliffe, former chair of the Parks Committee, I said, Vicki, what do you think? And she said, I think we need to have a plan, and we need to have a written plan. And so what you have before you is that written plan, which is a suggestion of who does what is stored where, and how it gets put up year to year. And I thought that this was something that we needed to adopt. It needs to be here going forward. Without Eric and without Hope and without Main Street, this is how it sits and this is where it is. And then if you want to hear my comments about Sandy Beach, I'm going to say one more time to all of you. I was very shocked this week to read in the paper that you are talking again, or the city is talking again. And I know it is not in your venue or your purview right now, but to be talking about that mobile home court and the future of that. There's a lot going on here, and we are not doing our due diligence. I see that you have a parking study going on. I know that that is not in your purview for Sandy either, but without the parking knowledge, the trailer and truck and car parking knowledge, the future of the trailer park, the future of the whole traffic pattern down there has to be done. We have to look at this holistically as a master plan. And I've said this 100 times. You need to get together and figure out a master plan. I know you guys individually have done a heck of a lot of work. But Mead and Hunt, great. Whoever else you got consulting, this firm consulting, none of these people get it. They don't live here, they don't know us, there hasn't been enough public input. And without that master plan, you are doomed to failure. In another 50 years, you're gonna have the same problems with the same trailers in the same place. And I'm not gonna make a judgment on what should happen, but that is a very valuable piece of property. It belongs to the citizens of Lake Mills. It belongs on the lake. You need a master plan. I'll be here when we talk about the holiday decorations. Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. Any other public comments, including emails? Mary?
The only correspondence I have outside of Sandy Beach topics was pickleball courts and concerns around the tightness of the fences to the exterior courts.
I received 2 emails. One was someone that spoke at the last meeting that they'd like to see the volleyball courts remain on the beach. The second correspondence was the possibility of adding signage to the boat lifts because kids are running on them, fishing off of them, and I think it's unknown who's allowed to use them. So the suggestion of signage.
And I basically had the same emails. In addition, I received information or comment from a person in Lake Mills who commented about the how great the Memorial Park is looking now and how much the grandkids love it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Drake. All right, if not, let's move to new business. Discussion, recommendation, review of holiday decorations, procedures, and separation of duties as drafted by Legendary Lake Mills, which is in this document is included on the city website, correct? So, Eric, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. I can.
Okay.
I think Hope and the design committee did a good job. She described the motive behind it. It's in the case there's ever anyone changing in the positions that they are in, this provides kind of a breakdown, consolidated efforts, provides some timeline and separation of duties to that. Makes it fairly consistent. This is something that can be handed down to the next person who would be operating. It'll make it concise and easy to make sure that everything gets done on time for holiday decorations.
Just in case people don't have a copy or didn't have a chance to look at, basically the items that we're speaking of for the policies and procedures are downtown planters, timing and responsibilities, lamppost downtown, again, timing and responsibilities, the gazebo decorations, this is the commons gazebo. So same thing, timing and responsibilities. Next one, speakers, sound and music, and this is for Commons Park, or is this for?
Commons as well as a portable sound system that's used for some events in Commons Park.
Okay, and then Big Santa, storage and maintenance, and then the tree lighting. So, and it sounds like you have worked this out, and we were talking about this, that the timing seems fine.
Correct, yes.
And it's good for you, it's good for them, so is this something we want to approve, or what are you looking for from the Parks Board?
I mean, you can provide guidance for city staff saying move forward with the policy as drafted or a recommendation for it. It's something that I would plan to continue to operate unless something drastic happens as far as changing of duties, but everything that's drafted here would be just fine for us to implement.
So Mary, do you want?
Well, I have a comment. I am not familiar with who does what by when on any of these tasks, and I think that some of the sub-bullets that are open, like as an example, under downtown planners, responsibilities, planters will be refilled with evergreen and holiday decor. Who is doing that is missing. And so it's implied that design committee has volunteers, so I was assuming the volunteers do it. But I think that just going through each line item and ensuring it's clear on the who, and if there is a by when, might be an improvement to consider. Because if I would have picked this up as a new person, I would not have known on some of these who is specifically designated or assigned to do each one of the tasks.
I mean, since this would be something that would be working off of as well, I can work with Hope and see if there's something that we can clarify. It's more for the organizations involved than anything.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So does someone want to make a motion to approve, endorse the Legendary Lake Mills Committee's Policies and Procedures Manual as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the endorsement.
Thank you.
I would second with additional clarification on the who. I think that would be helpful.
All right, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Motion to accept the Legendary Lake Mills Design Committee's Policies and Procedures Manual as presented is passed. Thank you for doing that. So the next item on the agenda is discussion recommendation, develop Parks Board recommendation for City Council Resolution 2519, Sandy Beach Recreation Developments. And I purposely stressed recreation is what we're speaking of this evening. And we're talking about the requirements that we're looking for at Sandy Beach for recreation and other things as far as our priorities are the things that we're trying to create tonight. So any comments before we begin from anyone on the board or Eric? Yes, Eric.
A template has been provided to you. You have two versions of this template, one that is fillable by the board members, one that is recommended or suggested recommendation language based on some of the discussions and input that we've had thus far. That's up to you to edit. I've done that for the sake of timing, making sure that we fulfill the obligations from City Council. Hopefully if it provides you some direction here as you guys go through it this evening.
Okay, thank you. I'll give just a brief history, and then Mary is going to be projecting this, the different stakeholders and goals and items that we're going to be speaking of as we work through this document, but the real brief history of the Sandy Beach, and this is from Mead and Hunt's beach study dated January of 2018 and updated in May of 2019. So the city of Lake Mills purchased Sandy Beach Park in 1977 from a private developer. It was a 14-acre recreational lakefront and 13.2-acre seasonal manufactured home community. And the property has had very few improvements. The Sandy Beach, I'm skipping over some things, but the Sandy Beach redevelopment efforts began with the recognition of failing infrastructure, safety issues, parking issues, aging recreation structures, parking emission conflicts, and water quality concerns. So that's a bit of a brief history. The stakeholders, the primary stakeholders are the city of Lake Mills citizens. Others are adjacent property owners and renters, visitors for the beach and park access, people launching boats, historic and cultural resource groups, and Rock Lake Improvement Association. So the goals are to address the failing infrastructures, aging recreation and such, build park amenities to maximize citizen utilization, maximizing the unique features of this particular park, beach and swimming access, as examples, maintain natural aspects of the park by preserving and enhancing green space and native and natural plantings, and design intentional park zones to allow optimization, park experience, and safety, separating activities. So we're going to have, lack of a better term, we'll have like it's called a quiet area is our vision, quiet area being on the east side, mixed use would be in the middle where the proposed pavilion would be, and then your more intense use would be the boat landing and such. So we want to make sure that the park is enjoyable to all and trying to meet as many of the needs as we can of the citizens of the city of Lake Mills. So top Parks Board priorities, boat launch to remain as implemented, the mounds, no disruptions, tree preservation as much as possible, appropriate stormwater management, ADA accessibility, and restroom availability. And the top Parks Department priorities are to minimize park impact, so reasonably retain existing trees and topography, consider planting locations and gardens, minimize infrastructure installation on shoreline, install buildings at or near current locations. And to increase user access, prioritize ADA and handicap accessibility, encourage alternate forms of transportation to the park, such as bicycling and walking, accessible and higher occupancy restrooms, maintain diverse forms of recreation opportunities. So other priority is to have the uninterrupted beachfront, keep motorcraft traffic separated from the designated swim area, remove and/or replace failing infrastructure, and prioritize long-term sustainability of structures and ease of maintenance of operations. So that is the backstory and the stakeholders and goals. Anything to comment? Anybody from the board? Yes, Anita.
Okay, thank you. It kind of is inherently included here, but specifically, a number of people have asked that we have the showers. So where it says top Parks Board priorities, if we could change that to restroom availability and shower facility, or shower, I don't know how we would want to word it, but something about having showers down there.
As we go through, we do have all of the objectives and the recreation features listed in here. That's something that you would be able to put in the recommendation. It would be my thought as well that restrooms would be designed with showers or exterior showers in mind.
Okay, thank you. I'd love to see it specified. Thank you. I'm fussy that way.
I added it for your recommendation.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. If not, let's go to our first objective, which is addressing failing infrastructure. First item that we have on our template is the bathrooms, keep and enhance. Rationale, top priority restroom facilities required. Citizen survey results concluded a desire to add outdoor showers to restroom facilities. Description, ADA accessible bathrooms with outdoor showers. Location to be where water and sewer infrastructure is present. I'm assuming that's to save cost and such. Thank you. Alternatives, non-issues, risks, non-known, cost, effort, impacts, reduce staff involvement and service call frequency, provide better resources for parks visitors, and increase ease of maintenance. And so our recommendation is to replace the restroom structure with a new designed structure, which then inherently including showers and dressing areas.
You could add
and
that in the
such.
recommendation area saying, including exterior showers.
And I don't know if
So is
you're
that-
noticing, we're capturing
Is that what
this.
we agreed to? That's the question.
Six
6:00 and all is well.
Eric, I had a recommendation, food for thought. A lot of the times when I go to Sandy Beach, the restroom doors are open, I assume, to dry out floors or whatnot.
Yep.
I'd like us to consider the idea of potentially like open ventilations, like let's say 10 feet off the ground, like screen
That would be
areas,
in the
so-
plan, like, priority-wise for me, when I say ease of maintenance, it would be stuff like
Ease
that.
of maintenance.
Sustainable, 100%. So the current issues that we're experiencing would hopefully be addressed in a new structure.
All right. Next item on the failing infrastructure items, objectives, is a maintenance garage. Keep and move is what we have on our headline here. But the rationale is the garage is needed for park maintenance. The garage location requires vehicle access throughout the park. Location is not optimal for park user safety. And current garage is a failing roof and no water supply for equipment maintenance. So it stores the equipment, and so move the location closer to the parking lot to maximize accessibility without disrupting park patron flow. Alternatives, none. Issues, risk, none. Cost, effort, impacts, increase ease of maintenance, and create sustainable storage location for equipment, adding to long-term equipment care. And then your recommendation is put forth is replace a maintenance garage and locate it at east corner of the property near the lift station. So the lift station is infrastructure for the city. The lift station is.
Yep. So if you recall the concept drawings that we went forward, the goal there is to remove it from the park interior, so staff doesn't have to access it with vehicles or anything. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. All the equipment operations and garbage canisters and everything else would be stored there as well. So my goal is to pull it out of the park interior.
And then as to requirements that we're looking for as recommendations to the city council. Again, one of the requirements is lessen conflict with park users, but also increase less maintenance and increase efficiencies, as that's what we're looking at. So with the water, and then is there also like fuel stored down there? Diesel or gasoline?
There's some fuel, but we don't have any sizable takes down there. The water specifically for things like washing off equipment, rinsing things off. It's also the garbage area. Hopefully we can rinse trash cans and everything else down there because we have to bring those all back to our shop to do. So we would have more things that would be able to be done at the park, decreasing staff time and involvement.
Okay.
I would plan to have water to this structure though.
Okay, thank you.
Eric, I had a question. So the planned maintenance building, you said you wanted to get it out of the park to get it out of the way of park visitors and be in the parking lot. I get that. Is there going to be a route for like the maintenance vehicles to get into the park other than going through the main entryway, or will there be
We would access it via the parking lot, or you're saying
So
access
basically,
internally
like-
to the park?
Or to go and mow the lawn, do you want that lawnmower to go through the main entranceway, or is there?
We would still have
immediate
access,
have
yeah. So
access
we
to-
would have gated access probably on the rear of it. So
Okay.
that wouldn't impede staff from accessing the park.
Okay.
Mary, you had a comment?
I was just going to ask, is there something new I need to capture? I'm typing as we go to try to make sure we are gathering the extra details or things that we want to change. So if there's something that you want specifically noted, please I just want to make sure there wasn't anything I need to capture on that thought for you.
I just want to make sure the
Okay.
maintenance vehicles have access to the park without
Okay.
going around
Okay.
the main entranceway.
Thank you. Do we have thoughts on the board, when we're going through this, the bathroom, to keep in the recommendation, I'm going back to the bathroom, keep restroom structure with new design structure? Do we want to, just to give it a real quick, yeah, we support that as we go along, or do we want to go through the whole?
If you could confirm kind of the general consensus with the board, that would be great for each feature, just to make sure that what the recommendations you write up here is consistent with the board, and then you would be able to make like a final motion that's saying your recommendations for these features are approved to go to city council.
Okay.
Are the rest of you good with that? So
Yeah.
we're good with that first part. And the same thing, we'll go down to the recommendation, replace maintenance garage and locate at east corner of the property near the lift station. So the board is tentatively approving that recommendation? Okay, good with that?
Okay, when we all agree on something, I'm going to bold it in the document, just so we know that we've covered it just as we're going through. So you can keep your eye on me. Make sure I'm getting this right. Whew.
All right, thank you. Going to the next page, item, picnic shelters, keep and enhance and move. So the rationale is the park draws a lot of people in to picnic. Having shelters available to provide shade cover, electricity, and grills is desired to continue. Description: build 3 to 4 small shelters throughout the park, dispersed to provide space between shelters to avoid crowding. Renting shelters would continue to be offered. Alternatives: retain existing shelters. Risks: existing shelters are not in optimal location if pursuing other park amenities. And cost effort: existing shelters are in need of maintenance and roof replacement. The recommendation: replace existing shelters and install new, consistent styled shelters.
What I mean by that recommendation language is just to make sure that if you do pursue to move forward with other shelters within the park, just make sure they all look consistent. The sizing can vary, that can be determined at a later time, but my goal would be have them all look consistent.
So do you mean just the shelters, or the shelters, the concessions, the bathrooms, all be relatively?
Yeah, I would like to see
Style.
cohesion within all the structures down there. This is specific with the picnic shelters, but I would like everything to look similar.
Would anyone be opposed if I added the word economical, or economically designed? Trying to be mindful of not being extravagant in our design intent, so that we don't lose sight that we would really like a very nice shelter, but we want to also be modest on our spend, given we have other features that we would like to enjoy in the park. Would anyone be opposed to adding that word in the recommendation?
No.
No, I think that's fine. I just think we just want to make sure that there is a consistent look, sort of, lack of a better term, of branding. You know you're at a Lake Mills Park, or at least at Sandy Beach, when you pull up.
So when we say small shelters, is there a way to define small? So in the initial conversation, I believe the small shelters were designated as 900 square feet, so roughly 30 by 30. That's 900 square feet. Are we looking for 3 to 4 900 square foot shelters, or are we looking for something smaller? So just for everyone's comparison's sake, the current shelter is 30 by 50, so 1,500 square feet. The small shelter is roughly 15 by 15, so 225 square feet. So that's a total of 1,725 square feet of shelter right now.
I would say we're not at the point yet, but what I want to emphasize is like varying sizes of picnic shelters, because they do have different uses. You have ones where families just like to hang out underneath them, and then you also have ones that people rent out for like graduation parties and everything else. So there's a varying use of those larger and smaller shelters, like classrooms come and use the larger one. So that's the intent at this point, is just delineating between large and small. At this point, square footage, I don't think we would really be at that point.
Would it be helpful to maybe add verbiage about capacity then? So, shelter, three shelters with a capacity of up to 12 or something like that.
It's kind of hard to determine at this point without square footage and kind of where we're at. I think that would be another detail we're quite not at yet.
Okay, all right.
Would all these small shelters be the same size, or are you talking various sizes?
I would kind of like to see like two styles of shelter, one large and one small, and keep them fairly consistent just for ease of maintenance and operations. That way we're not changing prices on rentals. It is the same size, but you can also book several shelters if that makes sense.
So might it be beneficial to specify the range that we're talking about in size for the shelters, so that we keep it, so we have a general feel for what would be the largest and what would be the smallest? I mean, can we kind of put a range of size?
I suppose that would be up to you to include that in a recommendation, but I think that would kind of, at least in my opinion, limit you a little bit rather than actually help. I think if you just say large and small, it could be up to further determination.
I guess at least what I'm getting at, and I think maybe needed to, is what's the design intent? If we talk about small, we're talking about a family can do their picnic and have this shelter and be shaded. Or if they're going to have like a family gathering, which now it's not a family of 6, it's now a family of 16. Is that where we're getting at, Anita? You just want to get a little more clarity as to, again, going back to the rental, somebody wants to use it.
I think that would be consistent, saying like small shelters being family-sized shelters, the other one being gathering-style shelters, if that makes sense. Like I said, classrooms use it sometimes. So I suppose you could delineate family-style shelters versus multifamily shelters would be a decent way to label them.
Yeah, I think that would help, just to get, just visualizing the amount of people we're talking about, family as compared to multifamily or event-type structures.
Okay, so I've added build 3 to 4 small family-style shelters, excuse me, throughout the park. And then I also stated just in a new sentence, these shelters likely will be similar in size for rental simplicity. So it's giving our design criteria or more specific requirements that we desire. Because that would help you out then on the rental side, so we don't lose track of that thought.
Yep, thank you, Mary. Yep. So the recommendation is replace existing shelters and install new consistent styled shelters as modified. We're all good with that?
Any comments on? Yes. Okay, so bold it out.
Okay. Moving forward to the fence and gatehouse. Now, this is the chain link fence, and the gatehouse is where somebody sits and takes money on certain days.
Correct.
All right. So the recommendation is to remove it. Rationale, entrance fee collection is inconsistent and difficult to enforce with current gatehouse staffing. Exterior fence is aging and a temporary fence is installed annually. As we are considering parking as a new approach for fees, the fence and gatehouse no longer serve a purpose. So remove the fence and gatehouse. If parking is monetized, retained current park entrance fee model is another alternative. Issues or risks, both gatehouse and fence are in need of repair. Further analysis of parking fee structure and implementation needs further research. Cost, effort, impacts, likely to have increased collection of park fees, and payroll would not be needed for gatehouse staff. And the recommendation at this point is to pursue paid parking model and remove gatehouse and fence. Questions, comments regarding the recommendation?
Do we want to put verbiage in there that would suggest adding QR codes at the gate, at the parking lot entrance as fee collection, or is that a little?
We'll need a comprehensive paid parking system, and
Okay.
so I don't think you need to specify what exactly that looks like. but we
That
would
might
need-
be, that might be a little too deep into the,
Yeah, this is just the model, I guess, of fee collection, one versus the other.
yeah. But thank you for the question, Jacob.
I have another alternative is that given the failure of the fence in the current gatehouse, that one alternative is just to add a new fence and a new gatehouse. That I think we should just have noted. That's not, based on our discussion of prior meetings, not our desired recommendation, at least not that where we had left off our last conversation, but that is an alternative. We could just keep the fence, get a new fence and a new gatehouse.
You can, but if it's not really a viable option for the Parks Board, I mean, we can note it within the template if you would like, but if it's not something that's really a priority for Parks Board, we may not have to.
Well, if I'm going to go to continue on with Mary's asking, I guess I wouldn't be looking at it at the same place with the same fence. I think we're looking at maybe, I was just down at a park where you drove in and they have a person there and it was $1 for day use, big money. But is that what you're thinking about, Mary? Just something like that where you're going through a gatehouse or a parking attendant at the very front of the park?
It could be there, or it could be where it's currently located or moved
this
over
an
depending
alternative?
on where we put the pavilion. I just feel, I want to make sure that city council has, if there's something that doesn't resonate, that there are other choices that can be a part of the conversation, and that is one not desired by us or today, but that at least we've thought of. That could
You
be.
could
Yeah,
still-
a redesigned gate access system that would make it more viable, something of that nature.
I like
Something more
that.
controlled that you can't just walk by.
Yeah.
Some kind of redesign to make it more viable.
It could be an alternative, and not one that, I agree with you, it's not one that we've been discussing as one of interest, but I think it's one that is possible. Should something else, another one of the levers, like the parking, or some other variable that's in motion doesn't work out, we have something else to look at as an alternative.
Sure.
So I added it. Thank you.
And so the recommendation would be, one is to pursue paid parking model and remove, pursue paid parking model. That'd be one recommendation. And the other one would be pursue design or redesign of
No, I think it would just go under the alternative.
okay,
So it's not what's recommended, it's just something that could be explored, but the Parks Board's not recommending
Okay,
that
right.
path.
right. Did we capture that?
So does everyone, right now the recommendation reads, pursue paid parking model and remove gatehouse and fence. Any other detail?
And the chain link fence that goes,
Correct, yep.
Yep.
Separates the
length.
park basically from the boat launch or the waters of the boat launch to the east end.
okay.
Is it up? One issue and risk I wanted, I gotta get my notes that I have on removing the fence and the gatehouse. I don't know if it is if it is a safety, like, is the fence right now have some level of safety? If you just drive by and you see it and you're not familiar that there's actually an opening and an entrance to get into the park, by removing it, is that a new risk? Are we adding any safety or reduce, adding making it less safe, perceived less safe because we're removing the fence?
Yeah, but you also have kind of the design of the entrance to the park when we discussed that plaza too, that'll be kind of like your delineated entry into the park. Is that kind of what you're referring to? Is if you open it up, anyone can access at any area within the park?
Yes, and I think now if you drive down and you see a fence, although the fence isn't contiguous, it doesn't really, it has a hole in the middle where the gatehouse is, but if you're not familiar, you see the fence, and it may deter someone from going to vandalize the bathroom, as an example. And now when you remove the fence, by eye, if you're coming down and you look at it, you don't see anything, is there a trade-off on safety? And I don't know the answer, but I think it's worth, I don't know, I've been thinking about it as we've been hearing from the folks that came to the public information meeting and talking about safety. The safety solution in my head is still mulling around, and the fence sounds attractive because it gives you an impression, or it does keep people out. It makes a barrier, and so by taking it away, is that just a risk we need to have on our radar screen?
I think that's something to consider. And if you go further in, you see the recommendation with safety, or the public safety one, further consultation with Lake Mills Police Department, that might be one of the things that you would request input from. You know, if the fence provides an area of proximity enforcement or security, my thoughts are is that you would still kind of have the designated park entrance. People will find ways to access the park regardless, even with the fence. So is it valid or not? I suppose I'm not quite sure.
Well, and I'm also thinking, to Mary's comment, if you had a funnel where people had to go through that part, if you were gonna put cameras there, that would be the place you could put cameras too, you know, as far as security and monitoring and
Yeah,
such.
that's the other thing. There would be security, or at least security cameras as well.
Okay.
I think cameras are probably more of a deterrent than the existing fences from anybody looking to cause mischief in the park, but, I think if you wanted the fence to be a safety feature, a security feature, I think it would have to change than how it currently is situated, but, I mean, when you see it, it does provide some separation there visually if you're just driving by, but I don't know how effective it's operating right now as a tool. I don't.
Yeah, it's more perceived, it's a perceived
That's what
security
I think,
rather
yeah.
than maybe a real, and it was just, while we're putting issues and risks,
Yep.
this one, I thought of, I was
would
thinking about
question-
safety.
I think it's possible.
Does it maybe do the opposite of what you're saying in terms of like a community service officer doesn't have access to the parking lot as easily? Like at the last meeting, we had people saying that they feel they saw people dealing drugs in the parking lot. Well, maybe if there wasn't a fence, then those community service officers would have more access to them, say, hey, we know what you're doing, we've called the police.
Sure, that's very,
Maybe that's
valid.
And I think that goes back to Drake's comment that security cameras and staff is probably gonna make it more safe than a fence.
And would we be documenting license plates that came in? Is that with the parking? Is
Yeah.
that kind of the idea? Okay.
The system that's been identified would utilize parking lot readers, but we haven't settled on a parking system. So that's one option that exists out there that we've done some research on, but we haven't settled on one. But they exist, that read a license plate as you go in, you get so much time to find a spot. If you exit, you don't get billed, you know, that.
Now I'm going back to the recommendation, you know, pursue paid parking model, which I think we can recommend as a board. The other thing though, as far as removing the gatehouse and fence, and not only the cost of the gatehouse and fence, but also the cost of having some person in the gatehouse and fence and repair. Maybe we could recommend and say, use that model not spent for a person down there that's, it could be, you know, like a beach or park monitor. You know, another person, like a park ranger, so to speak, rather than spending the money on a gatehouse or a fence.
Well,
Sure.
I'll add that when we get to, when we get to the safety bucket.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll put a note there.
Okay. But I mean, so I'm thinking we could probably be okay with removing the gatehouse recommendation and the fence,
Is everyone okay with
but then pursue the paid parking model. Are we okay
Sure.
with that recommendation? All right. All right, let's move forward then. Thank you for the clarification.
Are you making the changes on that document as we go then?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm bolding
make
the
sure.
recommendation just as a highlight, the ones that we cover, and then I'm adding any additional notes people ask me to add, but otherwise I'm doing it online as is.
Perfect. Thank
Yep,
you.
as we go. So thank you for giving us a head start on some of the content.
The next objective is maximize beach and swim access. So the first objective, one contiguous beach.
Should probably say contiguous. Continuous.
Contiguous.
Yes, one
Continuous?
beach, all right, I was gonna say one beach, one
One
long beach.
One long beach? Okay.
Don't use words you can't pronounce.
Okay, that's good. I like that. Oops, let's undo. Oh, I can't do that. All right.
So again, keep and enhance, so the rationale, the old launch, storm drain, and bait shack are located in prime park area. One of the primary objectives of this park is to optimize its unique features, the beach being the primary asset. Increasing the size of the beach adds additional sand space for park attendees. So remove the old launch and bait shack, redesign stormwater infrastructure to allow for connection of east and west beaches, and move piers to west, in the West Park location. Alternatively, we could just keep it as the split beach. Issues risk, two beaches does not create optimal layout for swim areas and separating motorcraft traffic and swimmers. So that's a risk. Cost-effective, unknown costs required for existing infrastructure removal. It is anticipated that more sand would be required for maintenance, and further research is necessary if sand retention on the east property line is necessary. And that was so that there wasn't flowing going into the property owners.
Yep, so you guys will recall some of the public correspondence we had on that, sand flowing along the beach and to neighboring property owners.
And so the risk or cost would be some sort of retaining wall or whatever.
Yeah, some form of sand retention. I don't quite know what that would look like, but
Do we know how long it takes for that sand to drift? Is it years or is it?
I think, and Eric can speak to this, because we've worked on this for a number of years with the sand drift, especially at Pardos Beach, and with the lighter sand, like that season, but now we've been using a heavier or larger grain of sand, and that has gone down quite a bit. Can you speak to that, Eric?
it has. We've significantly decreased the amount of sand we're replacing each year, so it doesn't, it's not washed off of the beach as easier. It's hard to tell, though, how long it takes for that to happen. It's all weather dependent, condition dependent. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, so I can't provide you a specific number. Does it take 1 year? Does it take 10 years? I don't know.
There are a small number of riparian owners who have shared their stories with me regarding the sand drift, and they would be anecdotally, I'm sure not scientifically, because I don't know that they've kept an accurate log, but they kind of know so many years, and then I had add another foot or two of pier length to get to my 3-foot depth, and then another X years, and now I'm out to whatever, and so I don't know how, over what period of time. I know that some of the riparian owners are long tenured riparian owners, so I think we could get some anecdotal data that would be maybe an indicator, but I don't know of anyone who's actually measured the depths or have any records from the Jefferson County Land and Water or anyone that would know specifically how it has really worked. And I know there's some drift also that's made it all the way down almost to the channel, because the shoreline over down towards Bartles Beach, as you're getting towards the channel, also it used to be deeper and now is shallower, but that's been over, again, 30 years, to your point about how long and how quick. I don't know. I know other than the maps from a long time ago would suggest it could be up to a foot or two has been lost in some areas over the course of time since 1950, but we're in the year, 2025.
So,
Is there something you're looking for
No,
there?
I just
You're
off the
thinking?
top of my head, I wonder if we already have the tools to stop this drift, if it's like dragging the sand back to where it started once a year. And just something as simple as that, is that a possibility, or are we supposed
We
to-
regularly groom them, though, too, but a lot of it is
like
dependent on.
I don't
from the
think-
water?
Yeah, I don't think the DNR would allow
the
dredging.
legality of.
Yeah,
So that would be
be a
nimble.
permit every year. I don't know that would be sustainable.
I mean, we do groom the beaches. We pull sand back if needed, but it's all on the actual beachfront itself.
So I moved it as a risk that just further research is necessary if sand retention methods is necessary. I think that is a risk. I like that it's also in the cost impact, because it could be, if we find it is a risk, it's going to be an added cost to figure out how to mitigate whatever it is with gates, or the swim pier has boulders underneath it to capture. I don't know what the solution would be, but I put it also in the risk based on the conversation.
but that risk is there even if there's two beaches. Would you agree?
Correct,
I mean-
yeah.
But we're adding, what percentage did you calculate? We're
I
adding,
think we'd add roughly 25% to 30%. So if we put all the boat lifts on the one side, it would reduce it from roughly 45% of the beach to 20%. So then, yeah, like roughly 25% more.
So Mary's adding that as a risk or a cost impact. Oh. If you would go up, so they can capture it, please, Hope.
First of all, you got to remember you're not dealing with a swimming pool. You're dealing with a natural body of water, and you're going to have fluctuations in the weather. And if you haven't looked around lately at the news, we're going to see more fluctuations in weather. We're going to see more events. What you do when you add sand to those beaches is totally recreational. And I know you're dealing with recreation, but that is a total recreational feature, not something that was naturally there. Probably there was a sandy beach at Sandy Beach, but not as you see it today. So don't forget that that lake is always changing, and adding that sand is not a sustainable practice. It is absolutely not a sustainable and environmentally correct to be adding that sand. And you're never going to get a permit to dredge that or remove that. So there are some trade-offs to be made here between recreation and sustainability and the natural environment.
All right, thank
Back
you,
to
Hope.
what Tom has suggested, more native plantings. There may not be that beautiful sandy beach that you have in Fort Myers.
Right,
Just
thank
a
you.
comment.
Yep, and so I think the recommendation, given all the things we're talking about, is more study is needed as far as mitigating it, because I'm going to say that the wind is mostly from the southwest, southwest, which is pushing that along. So there's things to be explored, but again, we're talking about recommendations for the recreation. But we also want to balance the priorities of the environmental impacts and all that. So I think the recommendation would be that see what we could do to mitigate the drift and see what other options we might have. But I think we're all in agreement that we want the beach, correct? As a recreational opportunity down there?
Correct.
All right, so
Would this be the time to discuss the 2 cottonwood trees, or is that kind of up for discussion later on?
I think that would be up for discussion later on.
Okay.
yeah, but thanks for asking. Moving on to the next, as part of this maximum beach and swim access, one straight line sidewalk.
On continuous.
One continuous, thank you, continuous sidewalk, keep and enhance and move. So having a walking path is important for ease of travel throughout the park and from the parking lot. Provide a walking path that takes park attendees from east to west and builds a natural divide between sand and grass, or plantings rather than just grass. Removal of current pavement near the maintenance garage and redesign the path will be necessary. I think we want to be careful about, grass. I think when people think grass, they think of turf, and I think most of us know turf is notorious for not being too environmentally friendly. Alternatives, do not install the
Continuous.
continuous sidewalk, thank you. And issues risk, not having a sidewalk would limit ADA access to the park interior and amenities. Cost, effort, impacts, current roadway used for pedestrian traffic is needing repair. Further research would be needed if a newly proposed sidewalk would require tree protection requirements. And again, tree and/or planting. Because I think what we're always trying to do is just make this, well-designed thing with native plants, bushes, trees, and such.
Should we write down remove old walkway or asphalt?
That would happen if you install a new one.
Yeah, I assume. And then by sidewalk, are we talking concrete, bricks, something else?
Concrete, I mean, design-wise, it would be nice to have stamped or designed concrete as well. I would not pursue bricks and pavers for maintenance needs. Ideally, this would be concrete and not asphalt, is what I would picture.
I
Okay, thank
think
you.
it can be open still.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
thing-
think you have to decide that now. I think
Yeah,
think we could explore pervious pavement as well on a walkway within the park.
Okay, because would we need to plow this in the winter? Like, is that?
It
kind of-
depends on what axis is going down there, and if there's gonna be winter recreation. I probably would not have plowing or snow removal on this. If we do have winter recreation like the ice rink, I would have that snow removed, but I wouldn't expect that we would move forward with snow removal.
Do you kind of envision the sidewalk, like I was walking the park recently, and do you kind of envision it being slightly curvy to go with the trees? Or do you kind of
Ideally.
envision literally a straight line?
I don't quite know. Ideally, I impact the trees as least as possible on the property, but
I think
I'm
that's,
not quite
I
sure.
think that the big thing for our recommendation is gonna be, we need a sidewalk down there.
Okay.
The design of it and what materials it is, I think that's detail for later. Agreed?
Okay.
Mary's?
Well, although I have a question, so I always think about when you're walking through a space, you're moving from point A to point B, and if you are a family hauling well, you have kids, so you're a family hauling your wagon full of all your stuff, and is there something you're thinking about when you have a curvy sidewalk versus straight that you feel is worth noting as, I think it's worth noting kind of some visionary things. So you have something in your mind, so.
When designing this park, my biggest goal is to not take nature out of nature, and I picture a meandering walkway. So it's not so much about the efficiency of pulling my kids through the park. It's about not putting too much concrete in nature. So I think there's very few man-made structures that enhance nature. So I kind of want to walk a very, straight line on that.
Yeah, I think there might be.
It's more of a
certain
design
sharpness
thing
of-
than anything.
I think that it would have to be thoughtfully designed with ADA compliance in mind, because I'm not certain of this, but there may be, the sharpness of a turn may have to be compliant with ADA, right? It can't,
Yeah.
I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. It can't snake too aggressively, but I think if you like, you can put in thoughtfully designed, or a walkway that enhances the natural amenity, that is in complement with the natural amenities. I don't think it has to be only
Well, one of the things.
straight through, but I think there's other priorities in here, right? Maximize tree protection to the greatest extent possible. That's gonna mean you're going to avoid cutting through root structures if you're putting in a walkway. So I think that you don't have to necessarily specifically say what the walkway is gonna look like, but that it should be designed to complement the natural amenities to the greatest extent possible.
One of the reasons, the only issue I have with the recommendation is the word sidewalk. I was looking through a bunch of
You
images.
could say pathway,
Walkway, I think I would.
walkway
prefer,
or
just
pathway
because-
would work fine.
Well, with all the talk of these gardens that prevent geese and whatnot, one of the images I stumbled upon was like a walkway where in the middle they had tall grasses of this walkway, and I think that's kind of what we're trying to do to prevent geese. And I'm like, if we could create a walkway that has two sides but like grass in the middle of the walkway, then that's kind of killing two birds with one stone in what we're trying to do.
We're not killing anything here.
We're not killing anything.
I would say relabeling it from sidewalk then to walkway or pathway would be appropriate.
Okay.
Okay, well, I changed from one continuous sidewalk to one continuous walkway, and then I added in concept a walkway that complements the natural amenities of the park. Does that get to what you were talking about this a little bit?
Yeah.
And I like that.
And I would add protects and/or, complements as best we can.
Yeah.
Preserves or something like that. We okay with that?
Okay with that, Anita? Anita's still thinking.
Well, I know it's not for the scope of this right now, but we do have, I agree that we want to do those things that are being discussed here. But we also need to figure out a way that there would be accessibility for people in wheelchairs. So I don't know if we would have sort of, some of it be more natural and then some of it, I don't know. I'm just thinking, so that we're meeting all the needs. Because if we go too natural, it's going to be really hard to put a wheelchair on that. You know how it is if you are trying to wheel somebody over grass. It's not the easiest thing on earth. So I'm just throwing that out, not to be included now, but that we want to keep that in mind so that we can, make sure that people that are in a wheelchair or a walker or something can go down there, so.
If we have a
I would specify ADA compliance in the
I just added it.
That was going to be one of my comments. I wrote it here. I specifically said ADA. If we're having a designated walkway or pathway, my goal would be to retain and make it ADA compliant.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think a future recommendation in the packet is an ADA accessible playground as well, so you're gonna wanna make sure you can get to the other amenities that you're promoting accessibility on.
Thank you for adding that, Mary. Thank you for bringing that up, Anita. So moving to the next part of this was volleyball courts. Keep and enhance and move. Rationale, sand volleyball has been popular.
We got the playground, Tim?
I'm sorry, did I skip one?
Playground.
Playground
Oh,
first.
playground. Okay, Dad. Go to the playground.
Whoever wears my kids out.
That's right,
Let's get 'em.
okay. I thank you for keeping me on task here. So playground, keep and enhance or move, provide an ADA compliant playground in a location that allows improved family engagement near the water and on a flat portion of the park will improve this park feature. Description, remove old playground equipment, build an ADA compliant playground on the east corner of the park as part of the family zone on the east side. Family zoned and/or quiet zone, I think is what we're speaking of there. Alternatives, retain existing playground. Existing playground does not meet ADA requirements and will need replacing in coming years to meet National Parks and Recreation Association, NPRA, playground safety requirements. So costs, effort, impacts. Current playground requires maintenance, including rebuilding of borders and installing wood chips. New playground would remove these maintenance requirements. And then recommendation, install new ADA compliant playground on the east side. May I ask a question on the present playground stuff? The border, those are the wood borders, right, that are around the.
Correct.
So are we looking at making it similar to what we have in Bartles Beach?
It would be the same style.
Same
So it would be
setup?
concrete border. Those are standard requirements for those, that style. They have poured in place surfacing that is handicap compliant.
Okay, thank you. Anything we need to add before we look at it? The recommendation?
No, but I have I don't know, an issue maybe that I think we talked about when we were at the park on one of our meetings regarding that particular area where boats come in and kind of between our swim rope. I know that we're talking about making that also maybe a kayak launch, and this is the quiet zone, but between our ropes and the Woodland Beach swim ropes is a large number of boats. People are out there, and it's actually an adult party area. And this is our quiet zone. And so I know we have to solve how people are going to get access to the beach, because that seems to be the place they go because of the absence of somewhere else to go, perhaps. But I think this is in conflict with current use of the water space, I think, between our two areas. And I just wanted to bring that up, because I think it's in conflict. And now we have to resolve it because there are safety issues in there. We've talked a lot about the problems. I have a new video that was sent to me this weekend that I have, actually I've passed on, it's going over to the town police, regarding a person who was behind a boat that kicked up right there right by the swim things, and I don't know how that person is alive, but they kicked up twice, and that person was standing behind the boat to push their boat out, and it's just very unsafe. And so I'm concerned about I really think this is the right place for that structure, but I am worried about the adjacent water utilization area there.
I think that would be an area to bring up during the safety portion. My recommendation, though, too, is if you're going to be installing permanent infrastructure, put it where we really want it to be and desire it to be within the park, and then we would address the issues coming up with
Yep.
it, whether it be township police department, changing a park use in that area or something, or enforcement. But I would recommend a
We can
As
also,
we talk.
Yeah,
we
and
can
I,
also collaborate with the town board.
Yeah, and I think this is a great opportunity because we have the same issue a little bit with Bartles. We had the same, the Parks Board has brought forward to the Joint Rock Lake Committee for how to address the same, where we have active motors right next to the swim ropes. And that's pretty dangerous. So there, I know they have that on their agenda, but this is one, I think, I just wanted to bring it up because it's noted as that's a current risk, and it's one that we'll have to mitigate. So I don't know if we need to note it down here so we don't lose it, or,
I don't know, I think it'd be good to put it there, that right now, because we want, we want to put the playground down there. I think that's the most ideal spot. But I think what Eric and Drake and you are saying, I think we do want to make a note, we'll have to be collaborative with dealing with the, the adult, or the boat, use or whatever the term would be down there. I know, because I know it's sort of like that party on, what is it, northeast part where the low area there, that they're on that sandbar over by between the county launch and the town launch. And I think that's kind of what's happening there between the two beaches or the two swim areas. So I think it's an issue that we have to address the water use or whatever the term would be.
I think it would be good to say something like address safety issues with boat traffic and adult, I don't want to say adult activities because that sounds bad. Whatever,
It is.
whatever you're going to say there.
I think we just capture it. We can fine tune it later, but I think we do want to capture that.
Eric, there was a swim pier planned on that side. Would that kind of create a natural barrier between?
It could. We would retain our swim pier that we purchased this year. It would just be, it can be reinstalled anywhere throughout the park.
Is it planned to be like pretty much right on the property line, or is it?
I mean, it could be pulled off, or it really could. I would like to have a buffer between the actual private property and our property, but I mean, it can be installed anywhere within that actual lakefront.
so how do you want me to write this risk down? Safety, it's not specific enough. It's a safety issue. What kind of safety issue? How would you like me to articulate this?
You could
here.
say, assess safety issue. Oh, go ahead, Tim.
I'd say assess conflicting safety issues or use, water use with safety of the park playground or something like that.
You could say assess safety, assess safety issues or potential safety issues with motorboat traffic near planned playground or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, because I think with them being kids and families, they're going to be from the playground down to the beach, down to the water, and that whole area. So I think all that'd be good.
How about assess safety issues with motorized boat access in this area? How does that work?
Perfect.
Okay. And I think it's also it might be noted in one of the other criteria when we were talking about the kayaks. I believe the similar type of.
Yes.
Because we have motorized and non-motorized in one spot, and that was one of our objectives to try to pull apart. So I think this shows up somewhere else also.
Correct.
That's
Okay.
good. Thank you. Volleyball courts.
Okay, so you can build this one.
Okay. So volleyball courts, sand volleyball, been around for 35 years. The current courts are located in stormwater management area. The location is not designed nor ideal for this recreational activity. And now that's temporarily right now, right?
It was intended to be temporarily. It's
Yeah.
been there for a number of years now.
Yeah.
Well,
solution
but still,
become
it's supposed to be
permanent.
temporary.
Yeah.
So description, build 3 to 4 new volleyball courts on the west side recreation zone or activity zone. Alternative, do not install volleyball courts or move volleyball to a different park. Volleyball court installation has been a high point of interest from park users and league participants. And the current location of volleyball courts is not sustainable for play and requires regular staff maintenance. And recommendation, install permanent volleyball courts at the park. So to me, I would say install permanent and properly placed volleyball courts at the park.
Yes.
Should we vote on a number?
I don't know if we need to get that detail. Oh,
I really don't think you know how many you can fit in until you've actually gone through a design process. Right now, the only thing that's been shown to date is just, boxes on paper, essentially, fancy boxes on paper, but it has not, we've never gone through a design process for volleyball courts, and so you can say we'd like a goal of 4, or you'd like a goal of 3, but if you end up, when you go through the design is gonna determine how much you're actually gonna be able to fit in there while meeting your other goals. So if you identify where you want them, we have to design it, and it has to all flow. So you could say you want 12 volleyball courts, but you won't be able to fit them in, right? So it's going to be limited by the space available and where you want to put them.
so do we want to put, to your comment, Jacob, recommend installing 3 to 4 permanent and properly placed volleyball courts? Because we don't want more than 4 because of all the things Drake's bringing up, but we don't want to have less than 3 from all the other league requirements.
And I know that some of the people at the meeting talked about lights. Is that a different conversation for a different time, or is that something we should consider? I know that speaking to the person that runs the program, she had mentioned like to expand the program, lights might be a possibility. I understand that's a big conflict of interest for the neighbors.
You could specify lighted volleyball courts if you'd like. I don't know the feasibility of that in the location that you're looking to put them, but it could be explored.
Okay.
And to that point, Jacob, the advantage of lighted courts, they can be used from whatever till 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so from this, what this person was saying was, in order to get the same amount of people, right now they have 3 matches a night, and to get the same amount of people, they could have a 4th match, but they would need lights in order to do this. I think her goal was to get the amount of participants up from where it was 5 years ago. Get it back to that spot, kind of she's trying to basically rebuild what she had.
So would the
I just don't know if now would be the time to put in the verbiage for lights.
You could specify in your recommendation.
Yeah, I think we should recommend that, exploring it anyway. Exploring the feasibility of putting lighting in to the volleyball courts.
Sure, that would be appropriate on a recommendation.
Now, one of the things you mentioned is properly placed, I think is what you said. And one of the comments we were getting is it's real important that they're placed so that there's not that sun glare. And that goes with that, but do we want to specifically say something?
I would consider that properly placed,
So that's
would take that into
properly placed. Okay.
consideration.
And not too close where the balls, I think Jane did a nice job. Not, the balls don't go in the water, so it can't be so
Yep.
close.
That would all be included within the design aspect.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a personal perspective on the lights. I am not a fan of that option. I think we should explore it, but if I had to put my money somewhere else, this is getting to putting our money for the majority, like our target population is the citizens of Lake Mills. For 150 people to play volleyball for an extra 2 nights a week, a little bit longer, to me, it's not a good dollar well spent. But I don't know that if I had to trade that off, I would trade that off.
There
I think
could
we
be-
need
I
something else.
agree entirely with you. I just didn't know if that was.
There could be an option too. I mean, other things for their league play can be considered. Instead of 1 or 2 nights a week, it could be 3 nights a week, and they're just not as long. So I mean, there are other options too, but if the board does want to pursue lighting, I mean, it would be appropriate to include it in the recommendation.
And when we used to play tennis, you would pay for the lights. I mean, if you wanted to play at night, you went up there with your extra money and you had the meter and away you went. So the league could pay for the lights. I mean, there's some ways we could monetize it
I
if
would
we
just
had to.
say, if the Parks Board doesn't want to recommend it, you don't need to include it just because it was brought up as something someone would like to consider. So if it's not something you want to be explored, you're not stopping the city council from exploring it. You're just saying that's not a priority that the Parks Board has identified. So you can include it, you don't have to include it. That's fully up, right now to the four of you up on the
I'd
dais.
rather personally not see lights, but I just kind of threw it out there because that's what's.
Well, you could take a vote for the members that are here now if you want to see it within the recommendation or not.
Well, I think if we say explore the feasibility, we're not saying we want it. We're just wondering how much will it cost, how would we do it? And I think that's interesting that there would be an option potentially to have a charge associated with it. But, I mean, it's completely unclear to me how much it would be to install lights. I think it's pretty darn high. But we could, I guess I would say we could explore it since this is probably going to be what we have for a long time, hopefully. I mean, can they be installed later with this type of?
They would require utility installations under the park. I wouldn't be real in favor of going back and putting them if we're trying to minimize park disturbance.
Okay.
Yeah, I think exploring, and it's easier to put the stuff in, even if you never even use it, than it is to go back and do it. So if we're gonna do something like that. So, but I just go back to, if you're looking at, and there'd be limits to it, but I do think we should recommend exploring it, costs and impact it have on leagues, impact it have on play, impact it have on neighborhoods, ambiance of the park. So I'd be in favor of at least recommending that it be explored. Mary's against this, so we know that already.
Yeah, I just,
I'm against it. I just
Okay.
put my
So
foot
we're
in my
2 and
mouth.
2.
So we're split. Where's Mike?
well then, where's Mike?
On a 2-2, it would fail.
2-2 it
If you went
fails?
to
Fail.
vote,
Okay.
2-2.
Okay, 2-2 it fails, all right.
Okay, so then
fail.
I'm removing it?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna be quiet from now on.
No, that was great you brought it up. It is, we have to talk about all this, that's why we're here.
Because people are asking, so, at least they know we're considering what has been said to us.
And you heard the input from Eric about the redoing or going back is,
I like the next.
Excuse me, back to volleyball courts, would you support if I put as an alternative, lights were discussed as a option, but are not supported at this time by the Parks Board, so that we know
Sure.
we've not
I think that would be-
documented that we
that would
had
be
it?
fine.
Okay.
great, that's a great
Okay.
ad, Mary, great ad.
Okay.
All right, ready? All right, thank you. So the next item, the kayak storage, rental and launch, keep an enhanced move. So non-motorized boating has increased in demand and popularity. The self-rental kayak program was implemented last summer, went very well, and was expanded this year. Continue to offer kayak storage for a fee, kayak rental, partnership, and an improved launch location on the east side of the park. Locating the kayak launch on the east side meets the objective of separating motor and non-motorized watercraft for safety. Do not pursue watercraft rentals. This recreation opportunity has been consistent for several years at the park. No associated employee time or maintenance requirements because of the current setup. And then continue to provide watercraft rental services through a third party. Yes, sir.
If I can provide an addition, I also included, my apologies for not including it here. I did want to reference both the rental and the launch and the storage all in the same one. I just included the rental services on the recommendation. My opinion, or at least my recommendation, would be to also include designated kayak launch areas separate from motorboat access area.
And where does Mary put that in?
In the recommendation. The recommendation specifically lists rental services, not having a designated launching location separated from motorboats.
And then we need to put the risk that this kind of overlaps with that current utilization of that space where we're talking about putting this
Sure.
in. I'll add that back in there then, okay.
Just one point, it's a little nitpicky. On alternatives, I would actually label it as terminate existing watercraft rentals because it's a service you're currently providing. So the alternative would be to stop doing it.
Thank you.
For
Oh, sorry.
I was, just for clarity, so people know, that what we're talking about here is non-motorized watercraft.
Correct.
So I don't want anybody thinking we're renting watercraft. So I think we want to add that we're, very top, non-motorized boating. So just keep on saying non-motorized
Okay.
rental. Because I don't know if we're looking at stand-up paddle boards or
Yep.
such in the future, and
So for recommendations, could we just say continue/expand non-motorized watercraft rental? Because stand-up paddle
You could say
boards,
rental and access.
like, stand-up paddle boards, potentially paddle boats.
yeah, non-motorized rental and access.
Yep, that's how I would label it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. And Mary, did you capture that? All right, thank you.
Okay, this is non-motorized.
And non-motorized.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Ice skating, picnic plaza, keep and enhance multi-purpose space. So ice skating at Sandy Beach has been desired, but formal infrastructure to provide this amenity has not been implemented. The flooding of the stormwater retention area has not been a dependable option. Build an ice skating rink that will be located between a concessions shelter and the restrooms and will serve in the summer as the picnic plaza area. Alternatives, do not install central plaza or ice rink. Unknown ice pursuing winter recreation is a priority. Cost, snow clearing involvement would increase during winter months. Less staff time would be involved if ice rink kit with chiller was installed. Is that the same thing that's going to be happening at Commons Park?
No,
There's
this
no
is separate.
plans
We haven't discussed that for Commons Park.
Okay, all right.
If you recall, this is something that we were talking about, like a kit style system, instead of just spraying over the ground.
Yeah,
This is
yes.
what we discussed a couple months ago.
Yeah, okay. And so the recommendation, install a central park entrance plaza and conduct additional research on the ice rink installation. Or comments?
What I mean by that is I need to figure out utility needs for it, sustainability needs for an ice rink kit, stuff like that. So I would have to do some cost analysis for it. But that would be the plan, is if this area is determined to be built, that would be the designated location for an ice rink.
I would note that as winters have been getting warmer, the cost of staff getting an ice rink up and running as we currently do it is thousands of dollars. And we've recently had it be a weekend or a couple weekends where we've had high quality ice skating opportunities. And so we have done some preliminary looking around at other communities that offer ice skating rinks, but have some kind of infrastructure in place that maintains that ice through warmer periods. Because right now, really, once it's gone, we don't really go back. We can try, but it's days and days of 24/7 staff coverage to get an ice rink up and running without additional infrastructure to support it, just flooding the area and spraying the layers. And so that's kind of where the kit or the chiller or the other infrastructure would be explored, is what opportunities exist to install something that would allow for winter recreation in an area that we're having less and less viability on each year as we try to maintain something that we have offered to the community for many, many years. But in talking to longer-term residents and people who have done it, it used to be installed earlier than we're able to get it out, and it used to last much longer than it is right now. And so there is definitely interest in ice skating in the community as a whole, not necessarily specific to Sandy Beach, but there is interest in ice skating. And I think if current trends continue, we're going to have to explore options to make that a more viable amenity to offer if we want to continue offering it, because the recent experience we've had, the cost benefit has been rather lopsided for the amount of time we're able to provide ice skating to the community in both locations.
That's well said. So when I listed in my recommendation, conduct additional research on ice rink installation, my intent behind that is looking at what it would cost, what the involvement would be to sustain a system like that with chillers and the utilities required for it.
So, Parks Board members, do we all agree that some sort of Central Park Plaza structure or something should be there? I mean, a plaza where people can use to picnic, to dance, to whatever would be. We do recommend that, right? The plaza concept?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then do we recommend that additional research on the use and installation of an ice rink is warranted?
These are all gonna be built at the same time, right? Just to keep the cost as low as possible, like we're not gonna remove something and.
I would defer to.
Yeah,
I would say that it depends on what park amenity you're talking about, right? Different aspects of the park amenities could be installed at different times. But if we are gonna do an ice rink, if we were gonna install the plaza, and that would be the time to install the ice rink infrastructure. So we would wanna complete that research and come to a decision on that before we made the decision to move forward with that piece of it.
Okay.
With that being said, the city council is certainly within their authority to go back and do another project. It would, but the most cost effective would be do it.
Basically, I just don't
This is
wanna
just like the
put
volleyball
concrete
courts.
down and then rip it
Yeah.
up to put something
Right.
No,
underneath.
that
It would be an odd choice.
I agree.
So one thing we didn't gather as we've been talking about the ice rink is we had really good information about the counts on the volleyball, but I have no idea if people, well, I know how many people are at the Commons Park ice skating. And so there's something intriguing about if that were more formal because it's so charming, down around the downtown. I have no idea the current space. I heard it was used for hockey. When it was up and going, was it popular? Would it draw people? So it's not all what people do today, but what would people be interested in doing for tomorrow? To your point, we're building this for the future also. And so I'm torn a little bit on the hockey investment. It's a little bit like my lights comment on if I had to prioritize, it's because I don't know. And so I
mean-
don't feel like I'm informed enough, but my initial thought would be no on the ice hockey, but I love the plaza with the lights because I see huge functionality in that being a gathering space and so purposeful and utilized, but I don't know about the ice,
I
honestly.
do think this is one of those features to where if you build it, people will come. If you do have potentially 2 months or extended actual use of this ice rink, I know it would be utilized, but that is warranted for conversation. Do you want to pursue something like that in Commons Park? And if you want to maximize resources, you have one designated spot for ice rink and do not pursue one at Sandy Beach would be an option as well. I think it would be appropriate to include it in the recommendation language that further research on ice rink viability would be necessary down there. I'm just saying that if you were to install an ice rink at Sandy Beach, it would be recommended to be on that plaza area.
So,
Anecdotally speaking, it is often early in October when we receive our first inquiry about when will the ice skating rinks be up and running.
Okay.
And so anecdotally, we do receive feedback that people like it, that people in the community in general, not necessarily maybe at Sandy Beach, but in general, it is something that people contact us about and enjoy. And then when it starts melting as well, we get questions about, what can we do anything? What can we do? Are we going to, put it back in? So we've never endeavored, to my knowledge, to count how many people might be there, like on any given Saturday or something like that. But anecdotally, early in the fall, we start getting people asking us when we will be beginning the process of installing of flooding the ice rink area.
am I correct in my thinking that the people are asking, they want to skate, they aren't looking to play hockey? They want an ice rink to
Again,
size and,
I was going to say, yeah, it's a mix. I mean, it's mostly people just looking to ice skate, at least from my experience. I would say that user group outweighs the actual hockey users. Is your families going down there to ice skate rather than organized play of hockey?
I've never been contacted regarding ice hockey opportunities, but Eric receives more of the inquiries. than I do.
But I'm just saying for the vision of that area. And on the ice and the water, does it have to be treated at all, or is it fresh water that there's no risk to
It
the,
would still be utility. I mean, everything down there would be utility water. It would not be well water.
okay.
As far as the actual treatment of the water, I think they just run it through chiller systems.
Yeah, I mean, there's no chemicals in it or anything that makes it
No.
freeze better? or-
No, it's mechanically done.
Oh, sorry. So I might have missed it. Did you say, I think you said at a previous meeting, the ice lasts about 4 months with one of these freeze?
I mean, at the very most, of course, environmental stuff still into play. There's the potential that it could last. I mean, if we have a 60-some degree day though in winter, that's going to take pretty drastic issues on the actual ice surface itself. I don't know enough about it to see what the potential would be or what other communities that have these systems, what a couple years worth of data that they have. I just know that it would be more sustainable than what we're currently doing.
Okay, and are the concessions, are they planning on renting skates? Is that our idea to get more people out there? Or we're
Not
just
quite
kinda
sure at
putting the
this
ice
point.
down and-
Yeah, not quite sure at this point. I do know that you wouldn't be able to rent ice skates if you don't have an ice rink, if that helps. But, I mean, that's the only input I can really provide now.
Could try. That, if you explored I believe there's an ice rink in Lincoln that's down by the football stadium, the basketball stadium, volleyball, thing like that, and it goes all the time, so.
We do have another, it's actually town or village of Wind Lake. They have purchased one of these systems, at least the one that I looked at. It was purchased through multiple different donators. They have great experience with it and have good feedback on it as far as the use for it. They flood it in lifts, so it would be fractions of an inch at a time, but that layer freezes solid, and then it sustains that base layer, which helps too.
Yeah.
They have good reports on it. Seems like it works well and
Exactly.
well received.
Yeah, when I've been down to Lincoln, like for basketball games, and it's, it can be pleasant, I mean, and this and that, but people are sitting around that they're doing the ice skating rink, and it's, fun for people to watch.
I do just know, like, we would have to have utilities for this. What are the costs of operation for it? I don't quite know yet.
I think
I
the
think
village of Waterford is
That's-
one that we've taken a look like. Oh, yeah. 10 Club Park in the village of Waterford has a chiller system for their ice skating rink. So that's one that we would look more into to see how they did it, what the costs were. That's a very popular ice skating rink, so we'd have to, again, we don't have hard data on how much usage and how much desire there is for ice skating rinks. We only have those anecdotal requests.
Okay. I need to get a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to. But, so with the current setup at Commons Park and the infrastructure, is putting this ice rink kit with the chiller down there something that could be considered if we didn't want to add extra concrete and all that down by Sandy Beach?
Oh, absolutely. It could be an option, yeah.
I think it'd be interesting to get the cost. I am a little worried about, I don't know the facts, if this is fact or I haven't read the report, but one of the folks that came to the public information meeting, said that Minneapolis spent over 7 million on theirs, and they only got 3 days of skating last year or this year. I don't know if that's fact, if it was an elaboration, but the fact that to me concerns me for, I don't know enough about this space, but I am intrigued by the Commons Park where, was that ever in one of our park improvement plans, like years
It's in
and
the
years
court,
ago?
I
Yeah.
believe.
Is it?
It is.
I think there's a number of things in the court, but there is something in
It'd be
there.
nice
that
to
It's
have
never
it
been,
here.
it's never been discussed in detail, as far as like what we wanted to pursue, if anything further at Commons Park.
So where are we at with the recommendation?
I think a significant amount of research still needs to go into ice skating in the community as a whole to make it more sustainable. Whether that's multiple locations, one location, either or locations. I think that if we want to continue being able to consistently offer ice skating as a recreational amenity anywhere in the city of Lake Mills, we're gonna have to consider doing something differently.
Yeah.
Because spending, $4,000 to $8,000 in overtime expenses for a couple weekends is becoming more and more difficult.
Well, and having disappointed citizenry isn't helpful either, They're looking at it, then it melts, and they don't see you up there all night and trying your best, but you can't ruin.
So I suppose it would be up to Parks Board if they want to include that in the recommendation for this portion.
So I'm leaving the install a Central Park entrance plaza. Do we want to, as a recommendation, conduct additional research on ice rink installation?
Sure.
Is that what we want to keep, or do we want to remove the ice rink?
I'd like to look into the ice rink further. It sounds like an incredible opportunity for this town, and I don't want to just say no too quickly.
And it's a winter thing that,
Yeah. Like if our goal is to kind of get this park to be used 12 months out of the year, then that's going to click a lot of boxes.
And for the recommendations, do we say something about explore and discuss, possibilities of ice rink, something enhancement in other parks such as Commons Park? I'd like that in there somewhere.
I'll add that to alternatives.
thank you, Mary, thank you, Anita. All right, moving to our next page in the fire pits, and it says to install. So fire pits are popular gathering spaces. They're also a source of heat, which can be used during winter ice skating season. And then add gas fireplaces near the concession pavilion. Alternatives do not add fire pits. Safety requirements and management of fire pits would need to occur. Unknown cost for installation, expected employee ongoing maintenance. Conduct more research for installation requirements fire pits during design of concession, picnic shelter, or if winter recreation is determined to be a priority. So,
Tim?
I'm sorry, Eric.
So just for clarification too, this is very similar to the ice rink aspect. I don't know enough about the installation of these things to really warrant it right now. Now, I would say that gas would ideally be pursued because I am not necessarily interested in logs and people starting their own fires down there. I think it's very unpredictable. I think there's a lot of maintenance required for that and cleaning out of that. So if something was going to be pursued, I would recommend gas.
And are we looking at, this is something that the city staff turns on and off? I mean, these are things for
There's ones that are
warming?
timers. I've looked at other municipalities too. They're on timers, so they cannot even be turned on during time sets or like time frames. So think of it kind of like a solar cell or a photo eye or something like that. It cannot be activated during a certain time. And if you know, like hot tub timers at hotels, they only last a certain amount of time before you have to turn it back on for the most part. So they wouldn't be on all night. But I definitely would not be in favor of people starting their own fires.
So when it says fire pits, we're really talking more like a propane, or not
Flame
propane,
gas.
but
Yeah,
a
flame
natural
tape.
gas,
Yeah,
natural
that's-
gas.
that's a good way
pit
to put it,
with
flame
the glass,
table.
the glass pebbles or such.
There's ones like
or
that. There's the
grates.
ski lodge ones that have the, roof things over it or whatever too. But
Oh,
my
okay.
anticipation is that this would be something where people can mingle around and it's a fire pit, just based on your guys' recommendation or discussion on it from a couple meetings ago.
Yeah, so when it says fire pit, my brain goes, you're putting logs on the fire.
Ideally not.
We're really, these are flame pits or such.
You could clarify here. You could say gas.
Yeah,
I added gas.
yeah, gas I think is important.
I'll put gas.
Like the log pits in general as well. We do get visitors. We're close. We're not far from Dane County or other places where people come for the day or something. And we don't want fire logs crossing county lines, to the park either, and bringing with them anything they may have.
Yeah.
So to protect the trees within Lake Mills. So the fire pits are probably a lot of work.
Yeah.
For
Small.
The
one.
how much
return.
for what the return you may be expecting. We can certainly explore it, but when we're talking gas lines and control features and.
Well, and I was thinking safety, again, back, put my safety hat on. People are gonna want the fire at night, and I think good things don't always happen after a long day.
One of the
and
things
it's-
that I was thinking regarding safety is you're going to inherently hold people later at night if you're providing heat and light source. So park closure wise, I think people are going to tend to mingle around them after park closure hours.
I love the idea of the concept, but this with a managed business with it would be a different feel than a more concession style like we've been talking about. Now, we haven't gotten to the whole food, that this, I would say, is a no unless it came with something else. It came with a you know what I'm saying, a business of some sort where there's management, people there, and this is a part of it, but by itself as a feature just for ice skaters and whatnot, I don't think is wise. And I think the maintenance is gonna be crazy, more than you think, and I don't know, I don't have the data either, and
I've
I'm sure you'd
managed
find out,
campgrounds
but
before, and we did have gas fire pits as well. It was still quite a bit of maintenance associated with it because it's plumbing of gas lines.
Yeah,
And then
it should be
also
clean.
any source of fire, people are going to tend to put things in it, including garbage and anything else. So it was normally pretty maintenance heavy.
Yeah, I don't know, do we want to take
So-
right now, Eric, or anything more to add before Jacob?
So like when I just had this idea for fire pits, I was contemplating wood, like I love a wood fire. I thought they would be like relatively cheap, but I do see it's a process to clean up after them. The idea of heating up in the winter, I don't really like the idea of these big gas fireplaces, because I mean, they're pretty and they look like you're warm, but they don't really kick out a lot of heat.
yeah, it's true.
But then when we talk about gas lines, I know that there's some pretty solid like gas outdoor heaters that could be potentially added to these shelters that we're about to build. And if we're talking about building a warming station in the winter, maybe that's the most cost-effective, responsible thing, like an outdoor heater that's designed for, a shelter as opposed to these, flamethrowers that we're about to add to a public space. So I don't think it's a very good idea to add gas fire pits.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
would
seem
agree.
cost-effective.
I think if we, as a board can agree, we're not recommending installation of fire pits.
I agree.
So I
As
would
described.
just adjust the recommendation language then to make it brief like that.
If you want it to be known that you considered it, you can include it. If that's not important to you, you can just delete the table.
You tell me, I'll support whatever the group.
I don't
thinks.
recommend it.
But did you hear
Take
what
it,
Drake
do you
said?
want to leave the table in to say we discussed it, or would you like to take the whole part of the table out?
I would say leave it in and say it was discussed, and just not based on our discussion and other things. And as Jacob said, they could put it in the warming houses and,
Well, yeah, like we're building shelters and
Yeah,
maybe we
yeah.
could, in theory, put them on timers. and
I
then-
think it's heavy maintenance. We look long-term, you're just not what we need.
Yeah.
All right. So, very good, thank you. Next objective, so we've gone away a bit from the recreation parts. Now we're moving to improve stormwater management and water quality. So plant native beds and consider Rock Lake Improvement Association proposal. So Sandy Beach West has been identified as an impaired beach by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources since 2022 due to elevated E. coli levels. The beach is heavily used and swimming is a popular recreational amenity. Planting native bioremediation beds in appropriate locations will reduce stormwater flow, absorb nutrients, and deter Canadian geese. And also from Tom's part, we could also say with the seagulls and everything too, so. Description, native planting beds, location design, plant community will be installed. Rock Lake Improvement Association has proposed to fund ecological engineer design, partner with Mead and Hunt to ensure the design is complementary to other park amenities and be a partner in the execution of the plantings, design and plantings, I'm gonna also say. Also, do not plant native beds. Potential risks for increased or not improved water quality. don't know if that, potential for increased,
You could say increased beach
decreased, right?
closures.
Prevent for decreased?
Staff will be happy if they don't have to, if they have less goose droppings
Yeah.
to maintain.
But unknown requirements for maintenance, however, there is a potential for decreased employee efforts for goose dropping removal. Recommended install native beds and plantings and consider the Rock Lake improvement proposal. So,
I think I'd kick off with, and I think there's a lot to unpack in this one specifically, but I would eliminate, I would replace partner with Mead and Hunt to partner with the city. Mead and Hunt will do what the city asks them to do. So it's not like, they're not a stakeholder in this. They're a tool to achieve what we want to achieve. But they're not, a decision maker.
Changed.
all right, thank you, Drake. Thank you, Mary. So giving this is, the recommendation is to install native beds and, appropriate plantings and such, and the recommendation is to accept the Rock Lake Improvement Association offering.
The Parks Board can recommend accepting of it, but it would be up to the city council
Right,
to approve or
right.
deny it.
Is everybody in support of that?
I don't think this is probably the time for it, but I might as well say it out loud. I just want to make sure that these plants are relatively indestructible, like whatever we put in, I'm sure kids are gonna want to walk through them, and I don't want to just put a bunch of money in plants that are going to be destroyed in the first weekend. So I love what we're doing, but.
They would be designed appropriately for high traffic
All right.
areas.
Prickly pears are native to Wisconsin. We could put those there.
What did you say?
I said prickly pears are native to Wisconsin. We could put a bunch of those there.
Well, I think the design is complementary to ensure the design and, I will put and species are complementary to other park amenities, because you're talking about making sure of the right species so that when you have somebody run through it, that doesn't,
Yeah.
it might trample them and they'll rebound, but not trample them and they don't make it, kind of
Yeah.
so will that fit if I get
I
that?
just don't want, kids are going to kick whatever's in there probably, so I'd like them to be pretty sturdy plants.
That would be covered within plant community,
Yeah.
within the description as well.
Yeah, I admitted, I don't know a lot about the proposal that you're speaking about. I think the warning I'd give to the Parks Board is the same one that I'll give to the City Council, in that it would be my recommendation that any study or analysis that's done of city-owned property, that the entity that is doing that study, the engineering firm, the ecological firm, is beholden to the city, and that the city is the client. That would be my recommendation to ensure that what's coming forward is being sent to, through the city for the city to consider the results of it. If there's a proposal to cost share or help fund such a process, I think that can be discussed, but I think that the city council will want to ensure that the contractor is beholden to them and to their constituencies, and that we're not relying upon a study that is been developed for a different organization.
Well, I'm just going to maybe paraphrase to tie into what you just said, Drake, in that the Rock Lake Improvement Association is offering to fund a restoration ecology firm to assist the city and their engineers in developing a plan to capture and biomediate stormwater at Sandy Beach. So we could maybe change that proposal to say the Rock Lake Improvement Association will work under the direction of the city or something like that.
I'd have to talk with them about it and
Okay.
figure out, because for one, if they're making a donation, there's a donor intent that we want to honor, first and foremost. So we have to make sure that donor intent matches with the the goals of the city. So if it's that there's a process delineated for selecting the ecological firm and a scope of work that's clearly defined as to what's the goal of that scope of work, I think those details need to be worked out. As far as who is that consultant working for, who are they delivering the product to, and who holds the client and owner relationship.
So Mary is writing quickly.
I was just writing some notes, so
Yeah.
I have, like,
I
it's
think
actually
as-
next steps, actually. That's kind of the,
Yeah, so our intent as
Yeah.
a part, we would endorse Drake's comments. Basically, to make sure that whatever is created, decided on, they're beholding to the citizens of the city of Lake Mills. And therefore, the council and powers that be in the city itself.
And I'm not saying our goals don't align.
No, I hear you, but I do think that's wise to make sure that it's the city that is the one they're contracted to or with.
well, whatever you read, I liked,
Okay.
because that was from Tom's
That was-
talking points. So maybe if I could just capture that and, because that's, I think it's similar, almost similar or almost verbatim to
It could be.
same
And
concept.
I apologize, I was late. I was at the library board meeting before
No
that.
worries.
A city servant being overbooked. I'm shocked, Drake.
Okay. Where did you read that? Just point me
Right
to
at
it
the very-
now, right at the beginning?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, here we go.
Drake, did you get a copy of this?
Oops, I can spell. Okay. Because that's directly supporting the city, and this is what their objective was that they had, a high-level objective. Does that work for everyone? Okay.
Okay with that? Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Drake.
Yeah, I mean, that can involve an RFP process for finding that firm. We can work with the donor if that's their goal on what process to go through to select that firm and what criteria we're evaluating them on, things like that, we can collaborate on. It was just, I think that meets that. At the end of the day, at the end of that process, the city will be working, they'll be working for the city.
Okay.
So do you want to add that language, Drake, about collaborating?
I don't think you have to get that detailed. I
Okay,
just
all right.
think,
Thank you.
right, it's a donation, so we have to collaborate with the entity that wants to assist in that work being done.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
For the next two, I'd like to provide just some guidance or input, I guess, if I could. I would
Next
recommend.
two being the boats, piers, and less, and the
The
boats
boat
and
ones
trailer
as well
storage.
as, correct. Any of those, I would recommend to keep them generalized at this point. The recommendation basically being as brief as pursue watercraft storage, leases and rentals, or do not pursue watercraft storage and rentals or piers for it. I would keep it very generalized at that point. I think there's a lot more research that goes into these, including pier design, lease structure and style, intent behind it, like the intent of use behind it. But I would keep it fairly generalized if you just want to provide motorboat storage on the beach for piers.
Well, I'm just going to go with where we are. The first item on the list was, the objective is revenue generating services or amenities or such. First one on our list is boat piers and lifts. All right, so just stay with the boat piers and lifts. What is your high-level recommendation?
You could say continue offering boat piers and storage. Because I know the discussion has come up recommending lifts versus slips, recommending short-term storage space versus long-term or seasonal storage space, the lease structure and wait list revisions. I don't think we're at the point to determine that, but just determining if that's a feature you want to retain or not at the park, I think would generally be the high-level way of looking at it right now for a recommendation.
So you think the current recommendation, the way it's worded, is too specific, or you don't think that we have enough information to put at those two as an or? I'm not, maybe I'm not confused on where we're going.
I think afterwards that or and current numbers should be omitted. So the way that I would word it is if you want to pursue slips, it would be remove boat lifts and pursue slips, conduct further research on feasibility of consolidating boat slip piers, and you could just retain that feature. I would remove at current number versus reducing or increasing the amount. I specified that in the following language. I would not include that at this time. I mean, we are at our required maximum amount from the DNR for those lifts. You would have the opportunity to reduce those amounts if it's not feasible that we can pursue them all in one location, but I just don't think we're quite at that point. I think just looking at it as, is it a feature or a recreation opportunity you wish to continue to pursue or not, would be the right way to look at it right now.
Well, one of the reasons, I'm sorry, Mary. One of the reasons we are recommending boat lifts is one, if the variety of types of boats that use said boat lifts and the cost and maintenance of the boat lifts, the continuing cost and maintenance of said boat lifts. Is that one of the reasons that we want to go away from the boat lifts?
Correct, yep. So remove boat lifts and pursue slips.
And so slips means they'd be in the water, or the slips allow them to be they'd be in the water.
There are designs that are pull-up styles, but it would be another one of those things that needs further research. They wouldn't be full lifts though with winches.
Okay.
So there are multiple different styles and layouts for slips.
So are we okay with recommending removing the boat lifts and pursuing various renditions of boat slips? And that's part of that conduct further research on the feasibility of boat slips at the
Of
current number?
consolidating boat slip piers. That's the feasibility of moving the one from the middle to the west. So we have to look at the feasibility, whether we can,
Yep, retain them all on the west end of the park,
Yeah,
kind of like what you
I
guys
think
were discussing.
The feasibility question is can you maintain the current number by consolidating them into one boat slip pier?
Correct.
I think that's what
Yes.
needs to be studied for feasibility. And then we would probably have to have if we couldn't, we'd have to have another conversation on which priority wins out, consolidating to one pier or maximizing the amount of boat slips we can offer.
Yep, correct.
So the recommendation is, it sounds like almost two. Just one, just remove the boat lifts and then pursue slips. That would be one.
okay.
And the other one would be the feasibility of consolidating the boat slip piers into one place,
You can say one continuous pier, one designated motorboat
the
pier.
west end.
Correct.
We're looking at now.
I just think it's one of those things, you could spend several meetings just discussing this issue if we're
And that
looking
goes
for
back
a
to Greg's comment.
recommendation
We don't
tonight.
know yet what that means, but I think we do want to recommend it's pursued. But we do want to recommend getting rid of the boat list for cost, for lack of.
Yep, so it would be important to designate slips in the recommendation.
Yeah.
Can we possibly get the wording in there to say explore potential of adding slips for temporary people to get off the lake? Is this a spot to do that?
I have this in the description, or it is in description, consideration to have a number of slips available for visiting boats, possibly to be rented by the hour.
Yeah,
It's
so
up in
that's,
the
that's included
description.
in there as well.
Okay.
It's up
Yeah,
here, and
that'd
it's up
be-
here in the description section, so I think that's a part of the conversation still outstanding.
Okay.
And the other thing, and I don't know if it's in here, but one of the things we had talked about is potentially, and I don't know if it's even possible, but basically banning beach boating,
Beaching the
of
boats.
Yeah. You would have the ability, it's the proper, or the city's property there at that point.
So if we had piers that people could come and they wouldn't come up to the beach.
Yeah.
Because what we're trying to mitigate there is both congestion, but also just when they come and go, they just stir up the sand and the flora and fauna of the water. So I think that's in the recommendation, that we won't have the ability to put the boat on the sand onto the land itself. Is that an accurate
Yeah.
recommendation? Okay. Yeah.
Anything else on that one?
Oh, go ahead, click off, Mary.
What'd you say, Eric?
She right-clicked, so the,
Making sure you guys can read, if that recommendation is good to pursue.
I have removed boat lifts and pursue boat slips, and then conduct further research on feasibility of consolidating boat slip piers to one location on the west side of the park. Those were the two recommendations underneath
I think
that.
that's well stated, just want to make sure it reflects the board.
And I just wondered, do we want to say recommend it banning?
Well,
beaching?
isn't it already banned because it's too close to swim areas? Because you're not supposed to, down, we just kind of gotta.
We have people at Bartles Beach that beach.
You
and
could-
I'm
you could
quite
list in
sure
this
we've had people
recommendation.
at Sandy Beach, that beach.
I would have to, I don't know that it's prohibited in ordinance. I would have to research that for you.
It's within 50 feet of piers or swim lines, I think, but you could specifically say prohibit beaching of boats.
I'd be fine adding that if that's,
Yeah, I think we want to be very specific about that,
That, it would be appropriate to put in a recommendation.
yeah. But as Drake says, it's going to have to be something that city council approves, or we have to add. So thank you for that.
Add it to your
boats, I think, is motorized boats gonna be.
Thank you.
you can add it to your safety recommendation as well.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
could go a couple
That's a good
places.
catch, Jacob. Yeah, some of us, I guess, pull their canoe up there or their kayak, because they can drag that up into the
Safety.
west part.
We still have the boat trailer storage
Yep.
option prior to safety.
Yep. So this is the one that is east of the present sand volleyball court location.
Yeah, east or north, it's the area between the volleyball court and the actual fenced area on the beach.
Yeah.
So this is seasonal storage of boats on trailers in the parking area.
The,
Well, I have no issues with the winter. So I know we had talked about winter, summer, so I think a recommendation is to allow winter storage. I think we all had agreed on that in
be
past
fine with
conversation. Correct? Because you said the numbers were small and they were not impeding
Yeah,
anything.
we have anywhere from 3 to 5.
Say, allow off-season storage, is that?
I would specifically say winter storage, because winter storage is from October 15th to April 15th is winter storage.
is that coincide with lake drawdown?
Yeah, well, there's October 1st changing and stuff as well, but it's just seasonal. I mean, it's the same thing for our trailer park. It's the same
Yeah,
thing for our
yeah,
restrooms and shelters.
If you specifically put the
Yeah.
dates on there.
Winter would be consistent with other park operations,
Yeah.
saying October 15th to April.
So just for the people that are presently storing their boats there, I mean, they trailer them there, then they pay their money and they leave them there. So all they have to do is trailer it back instead of from home or wherever home is, they can just drive there and take their boat from that stored place down to the launch.
Correct.
That's the current reality.
Correct.
So we're proposing, recommending that that be done away with. They'd be trailering their boats like everybody else to use the park.
If that's what you want to pursue, yes. I think weighing, when you were discussing the amount of space that it would take on a parking lot, it is about 1/3 of the existing parking lot is designated for boat trailer storage versus park goer parking. Now, of course, we haven't designed a parking lot yet, but it can be pursued. It just depends on what priority you would want to offer. That's why I said wait for parking lot study and parking lot design to commence if it's something you want to pursue or not.
So you're looking at a loss of $15,000 plus dollars.
That's current, and that's expected full lots and full collection.
And is that in, so if that's, right now they're renting it for the year, if I'm understanding that?
No, it's April 15th through October 15th, or October 15th through
So it's
April 15th.
two different fees,
There's two different seasons and two different fees.
Okay, all right.
So one of the things that you could write within this recommendation is, before you recommend to remove a revenue source, wait to see what a potential revenue would be for a parking lot or parking study before you recommend removal of it. But it depends if you want to prioritize this in a parking lot design or not. Or just recreation opportunity. Is it something that you would like to offer, taking space within the park?
I guess I would, recommend that we look into phasing it out. I don't know if we want to just say no longer, but I think that two things we'd look at, either the feasibility study of a new parking lot and placing it there and being able to keep that revenue, or if we're not going to continue it, just look at phasing it out in the next 5 years or something like that. But I'm going to guess it's quite an amenity for people that are storing their boats down and not have to drag them back and forth from wherever
It's a convenience. A lot of them are also Sandy Beach Trailer Park residents.
Yeah.
Storage of watercraft is not permitted within their lease, so a lot of them that are storing their boats do so with this fence parking.
And they don't really have other options, do they?
Yeah, there's a
There
lot
are
of
private
rentals.
storage options
There's a lot of
available.
private storage in Lake
Like,
Mills.
they have what, tow pools, and they have,
There are several places. I mean, Boat Doctors, loader storage just on Sandy Beach Road as well, up
Rock
the
Lake
road near
storage, there's a
Rotary.
lot of storage areas
Okay.
for
I used to
boats.
store my camper on a guy's 3 acres on
Yeah.
Lake Street.
There's a lot
It's
of
very
private,
affordable.
all right,
Yeah.
so where are we looking at as far as recommendation? Could you repeat yours, Eric? And then we'll see if we can
I kept
endorse
it
that.
fairly brief. I said, do not pursue seasonal boat and trailer parking, or wait for results on parking study and parking lot design. I could have listed to determine if this would be a viable option or not. So you could say, wait for results to determine viability.
Are we okay with that recommendation to the city council?
I'm fine saying it's time to, we're not running a marina, we're trying to make an awesome park. Saying, this was in effect for a while, but I don't think that we need to continue to provide trailer parking. Seems like, I don't know,
All right.
we could be done with
Nita,
it.
comment?
Well, we've talked about this so many times, and there's.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. We've spoken about this quite a few times, and a lot of people have differing opinions that have come before us and have written us, so. So we're talking about like a phase-out date, or are we talking about like going forward, or? I guess
This
I'm
is
a
just
little-
overall. I mean, we wouldn't have to yet talk about phasing out and what that system would look like. This really is this something that you are confident in wanting to continue to offer? You would make the recommendation to do so. Or you could say, we would like to wait for further information to make a recommendation. Or you could say, absolutely, this is something we want to offer. How that is implemented, we do not have to determine yet this evening.
I'm going to just put my recommendation. I think we recommend that wait for results of a parking study and parking lot design and maybe interest of, what it would generate. And let it be at that. Get some details, get some facts, and then go from there.
How you may be able to write that then is use results from parking study to determine viability of boat trailer storage, or see if parking study would compensate loss of revenue if you do not determine to have boat lift or boat trailer storage. There's a couple different ways that you could word it.
You can also choose to say it's that you don't consider it a recreational amenity and not offer a recommendation on it to the council, and then the council will grapple
Bingo.
with it as they design the parking lot.
I guess
Thank
I
you
don't
for-
really agree that it's not a recreational amenity.
Because tell us more, Anita.
I think that in general, it's going to be discussed when the parking lot is being discussed regardless. So if the Parks Board does not feel strongly one way or another, I don't think you're obligated to offer a recommendation on this subject.
And
It is
Anita,
up to
I
Parks
guess-
Board to determine the recreation opportunities down there as well, so.
Yeah, and if I'm understanding Anita's comment, I think this helps with the recreational activity. The parking lot storage is not a recreational activity.
Correct.
So I think we go to Drake's comment that let them wrestle with it, because it aids in recreation, but it's not a recreational activity. So I think we should put it to the,
Back to Drake's comment, ultimately, I think we had spoken about the idea of if we were to allow these trailers to be parked here for seasonal trailer storage, we had talked about moving it right next to Sandy Beach Road so that it's easier for people to get in, hook up, get their boat out without driving through the parking lot. So ultimately, if we were to continue offering this, I think we had talked about moving it closer to Sandy Beach. So it would be farther from the recreational activities, which we are doing.
That can
so I
be
think that goes
incorporated in
back
the
to
design.
Drake's comment, just let the designers and the proposals play out and go from there, because they can bring up the same concerns. So we good?
Can you support that, Anita? Okay.
So what-
I have an opinion, but I think some of it is, there are a lot of moving parts, and, I mean, there are ways do we think about designing elements of the parking lot and then the complexity of the mobile home park redesign. There could be alternatives if we desire that this revenue source, to me, it's a revenue source. I'm not looking at it as because all the citizens don't get access to this. And so it's a small number, and how we choose and prioritize is really important. And I like the money. It's kind of the same thing with the whole slip concept. It's a small number that get that luxury to be on the lake, and so the revenue is super important. So if we can't find an alternative, you can't turn it. It's hard turning it off. But I think the way that we go after getting the revenue, I would like to talk about how that looks, because I feel it should change.
Thank you, Mary. So on the recommendation, which is in bold, we all agreed, allow
Yep.
winter boat storage and trailer storage. All agreed, correct? Next one, use results of parking study and parking lot design to determine continuation of summer season storage.
What I would say, if I can provide a recommendation,
Yeah.
is Parks Board determines boat and trailer storage to not be a recreational amenity. You could leave it at that.
If that was the case, I'd delete the table.
Yeah.
I think,
Lisa
to Mary's
asked for it.
point, there's going to be a larger discussion surround recreational amenities are a piece of this, and a very important piece that you're all working on. The council at some point is going to need to grapple with the revenue generating features at Sandy Beach, and that includes its decisions on the mobile home park, its decisions on monetizing parking, its decision on the gatehouse, its decision on boat slips, its decision on trailer storage. Right, because there's a point where if you eliminate all the sources of revenue, then that has an impact on the city. And if you choose to monetize parking, how much revenue is that going to generate in order to offset not doing some other things that maybe aren't a priority to the council? So that's the only reason I brought up to you is, does the Parks Board consider this a recreational amenity? I think that through parking lot design, through parking lot decisions, where the city council is gonna have to decide what's important and thoughtfully design what it wants to include in that parking lot in order to best utilize it. Obviously, boating is a recreational activity, so you need a trailer to get your boat there, and then some people may need a place to store it, so it is tangentially related, but it's not a direct recreational amenity. But it's going to be talked about. We are collecting, physical parking data through the end of July. We already have several weeks of it. So that's going to be part of the conversation moving forward. And I think if you recommended tonight to not allow trailer storage anywhere, that the council's still going to have to grapple with, okay, what do we do with the lost revenue, right? Is that being made up? We don't know. So do I consider this a recreational amenity? I believe it's an amenity of Sandy Beach Park. I don't believe it's necessarily recreation. I think you can choose to make a recommendation on you want it. I don't think there's harm in it, but I don't think you have to make that decision now. And I think a lot of other decisions that the city council is going to make are going to have to be made together when we're talking about the revenue generating features of Sandy Beach.
So I was doing a little math here. So according to my math, we're basically charging these boats $5 a day to park. Okay, and then, so if we're charging a car hypothetically $5 a day to park, that's the same. And then hypothetically now these vehicles come in, they hook up to their boats, they launch them, then they come and they park their car. And I would bet they basically just disconnect their trailer and park in a single space. And right now they're doing it for free. So if we decide to pursue this idea where we're charging per car, are we automatically increasing revenue because these people are going to park in the parking lot?
I think the traffic and parking study will determine that and
Because
figure out for sure.
Maybe it's not just the loss of $15,000, maybe it's a loss of so much more, because, I mean, I am of the mentality of let's keep it simple. I want to charge $5 for a stall. If you're parking a trailer, a motorcycle, a golf cart, a car, I think $5 is fair. Hypothetically, if that's the road we went down. But I'm if we did eliminate this, then we are getting top dollar for it.
To answer your question, if you were eliminating trailer storage and someone parked a trailer on a parking stall, they would need to pay whatever rate was established in that parking lot for parking.
It seems but I think we're already kind of charging that, hypothetically, aren't we? Isn't it $450 a summer?
It's $435 April through October.
Okay.
So going back to,
$15 a day for.
going back
It's a lot of revenue to give up, it is. But-
going back to Drake's comments and that, do we want it as a Parks Board, just say it's beyond our scope and line it out and say that's not even our deal? Or are we saying that we as a Parks Board say we want them to do their best to include parking for both revenue and for park amenity for people? But going back to Mary's comment, I don't know, how many people can park down there in the summertime? Is it 35?
34.
34? So what's our recommendation?
You could take a vote as well. I mean, granted, we have 4 people this evening, but
Yeah. So which way are you voting, Jacob? We'll start with you.
I think that if we're not in charge of parking, I don't know why we're voting on parking.
Okay,
I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's also nice not to see a bunch of boats sitting in a parking lot.
okay. Anita?
I'm just going to pass right now. I'm getting tired. I think I need a break.
Mike, Anita, Mike.
I'm sorry. I'm getting a little tired. I think I need a break.
Okay.
Is that all right?
As soon as we do this, we'll take a break. That's a good idea.
Okay.
So you're passing at this point, Mary?
Yes, I just want to take a break and get some water. I
Okay.
just-
Mary? So how about we do this? While we take a break, it's now 8 o'clock, no, 7:59. While we take a 7-minute break, and we'll come back here or is that 6 minutes? I'm sorry. I'm tired too, Mary, or Anita. So 8:05, we'll be back here. Does that work? All right, thanks.
I'm not the one who 6 months.
What I am seeing in our preliminary county reports, and reports are enhancing is the data collected out. So, right now, the
30-second warning.
sounds like a lot of potential losses. I know a part. Yeah. But we have to just say, make a recommendation, defer to police department.
We will return to the meeting. It's now 8:05, and we left at the issue of parking storage, boat parking storage. And our recommendation is to, what is it? What are we?
Allow winter boat and trailer storage, and then I think we were landing on either removing this or just saying we're just going to wait for research to come in and see if it comes back to us for consultation and advice. That was our other, I think, kind of where we're landing, because we were a little split
I
on,
would,
do
I
we
would
have
just,
it?
just remove the second part and be done with that.
Just remove this one and be done?
Yep.
Just say, so repeat it.
And Tim, you can also clarify with city council when you make your presentation to them.
Just allow winter boat and trailer storage,
Yep, because
period,
that's,
for now.
yep.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Let's move on then to objective now is safety and enforcement and visitor safety. And this, again, rationale, the park has experienced an increase in park user complaints. And you have a community service officer program began in 2024 to increase park patrols and enforcement, loud music and dogs, glass battles in the park remain an issue. I also think an issue that has been brought up at our public input meeting is alleged drug dealing or illicit behavior at the park. Is that a fair statement from?
Yes.
All right. So some residents have requested installation of a blue light station. This would give park users a designated location to signal emergency service needs. Police department leadership could be consulted with before implementation. Having law enforcement designate parking near the entry to the park would create designated space for police department personnel. Continue current enforcement practices and alternative issues, frequent park user complaints regarding safety of the park. Unknown cost for installation of the blue light system. And doing to have recommendation from the Lake Mills Police Department. Recommendation, consult with Lake Mills Police Department for input on increasing public. So I would think that's pretty straightforward. I think this is something we have to work with the Lake Mills Police Department and say, make the recommendation that they come up with some plan.
I have a friend who's a police officer, and he said that he patrols at like the beginning of a shift every day. One of the things he said, he wishes people would call in more if they have an issue. I think people just don't know they can just call in for non-emergency numbers, so potentially signage. If you see something, say something, call Lake Mills Police. And if we had like maybe 2 signs on the beach, like it would, have more of a police presence. Anyone doing something wrong would probably, get the hint.
So is that a recommendation, just?
You could say install
cents.
non-emergency police contact information.
But that was
Signage.
his suggestion.
Okay, I think that's fine.
This is
With
nitpicky
that
of me.
recommend-
Up under the description, it says, police department leadership
Should
could
be.
be consulted. Could we make that should be consulted?
To be consulted.
Yeah, whenever my eyes find it.
Description, second line.
Got it.
Third line.
And
How about Will?
Yeah, will to,
there you go.
I'm just saying. Will be.
but that, I
They
still
will
think
be,
though
I
it could
think they
go
will be
back.
consulted, not before implementation, but they will be consulted for discussion, design ideas. I think it's just even not, implementation might not be the right
Yep.
word.
That's good. So good with that? Thank you.
So the next one, if you're ready to move forward.
The food and beverage one? Yes.
I did my best to, instead of separating all of these into three different tables or three different options, I combined them into food and beverage service as a whole. I think that would be the appropriate recommendation to make to city council. And I tried my best to have two different recommendation options there, or recommendation language.
Yeah, and I, just from comments that we've had, both in the public input meeting and in emails, it says referendum for construction of a restaurant failed. And I don't know if the construction of a restaurant per se failed. It was, from the writings, it was the proposal of the restaurant for the $3 million, or the design of it, is what failed. Not so much did they want a restaurant down there, did they want some food down there?
And I think I think that's a difficult game to
Yes,
try and
very
parse
much.
out
Absolutely.
what they voted no on. So we know they voted no on the question that was asked of them.
Yes.
But you're right. One of it was it that specific design they voted no on? We don't know. Did they vote no on the concept of the city subsidizing food, a restaurant facility? We don't necessarily know that. Did they vote no on that it was going to be a year-round facility? So there's all those details that we really don't know the answer to.
Right.
We do know that the question that was asked was defeated handedly.
Yes.
At the polls.
Yes.
I think that the process of exploring restaurants is an expensive one. And so I think if we ever went down that path again, we'd want to be really, really sure that we're going to do something there and acknowledge that it may not be a cash generating venture. Now, there's other options obviously available to you for food service, but I do think the restaurant question, we hear it frequently. We still have people contact us asking about a similar restaurant to the Sandbar. I think the difficulty is that, say we scale down that proposal and it's not 3 million, but it's 1.5 million, but then it's not year round. Are we still at the point where they're then not generating enough revenue where we end up subsidizing the construction of that? Those are all the questions we can't answer, which is why I think in my conversations with the city council, what I've tried to make clear is if you want to provide it as a service, that's one thing, but you're most likely going to have to subsidize the activity throughout the life of the loan until that loan has expired. Just because of the cost of construction. When you go from a 2-story facility down to a 1-story facility, we still are going to have commercial kitchen, freezer, bar, all of the expenses that go into building a restaurant facility. And so the question is can we remove enough of that design and generate enough revenue out of that restaurant on however long you want to have it open and keep it viable for the amount of time you want it to be open. A smaller restaurant may not be viable year round. That was one of the concerns that came up. Can we get to the point where the revenue generated from the restaurant exceeds or meets the principal and interest payments that are going out the door on a facility? And I can't confidently tell you that we can get to that point. It's possible, but based on the information we've done throughout these last processes, it seems unlikely.
Yeah, thank you, Drake, and I agree with that. So, to Eric, your comment, and in the survey comments, people still want some sort of place they can get a burger and a beer and a soda pop, ice cream cone down there on Sandy Beach. Agreed with that?
That's consistent with what I've heard.
So, given that, and did I misplace I've got 12 pages. I thought I had 14 pages.
No, there should be 12.
12, all right. So we're on the
This is the
downside.
last, this is the last one if you consolidate all of these tables into the general conversation of food and beverage service.
Yeah. So anybody have a thought to the recommendation of some sort of food service, be it a brat stand or barbecue stand or a permanent place that can be,
I think that we can do this extremely cost effectively. I know that we're talking, but like, we want to build this plaza where people have a picnic area, and it kind of feels like you could just build a small building off of that where everyone can get their sandwich, their soda, their beer, go sit on this plaza, sit outside, sit in the sun. You're basically building a kitchen as opposed to a restaurant. And I think that you can do that extremely cost effectively. I don't think you're having a fish fry.
Nope.
I don't think you're having prime rib, but you got a couple of hungry kids, you can go get a sandwich and a soda. And that's gonna check a lot of boxes, and it's gonna be
Concession stand.
super.
Is
it's
that
a
your
very-
definition of concession stand? Like your, I don't know, concession stand to me
Or
and
the brat stand,
the barbecue are kind of
but-
overlapping, they just look different
But
in
it's
maybe
like,
my
it's
mind.
kind of a brat stand, barbecue stand that you might see at Memorial Union Terrace. It's gonna do all the stuff, except the only difference would be air conditioning, fully enclosed, if that's kind of what the citizenry is looking for. And
so can we agree as a recommendation that we don't think food truck plaza is something that we want to recommend as compared to a brat stand, barbecue stand, or such?
I think a plaza is excessive. I think one spot where one truck could hook up, but I mean, their trucks are designed to have gas and generators and all that stuff already. So I don't know why building a permanent
Noise.
stand.
We don't allow generators to run.
Then,
They would have to require a
but I
hardwire
mean,
hookup.
where we were talking about putting the food truck plaza, all those utilities are right there already. So I can't imagine it'd be too expensive to run.
That run would be there, the pedestals would all still have to be installed for them and everything else, but the underground utilities would already be installed there to supply the restrooms and everything else.
I personally think that just based on the people I've talked to, the meetings we've been to, food trucks plaza just kind of doesn't seem like it works. There's already a food truck there on the weekends.
Yeah, I think as a recommendation that we would say, I think from our conversations, from what we've had, things, this last one, that brat stand, barbecue stand installed, that as pictured or as described in different places, would be more flexible, less costly, and would get at I think the wants and needs of a seasonal entity. And again, they could do all sorts of stuff there.
Could that be the look of the entrance or the end of your concession stand? Could this be, because I'm trying to minimize brick and mortar and like foundation in the park, and, because I know you were drawing some, like that is, because your vision was this brat stand separate from the concession and pavilion. Could this be the concession stand concept? This, you know what I'm saying? It's like open concept.
My brain
the
says
end of
yes,
the
and on the
concession.
backside of that, you could have your restrooms and such. I mean, I'm just, if you're trying to minimize the footprint,
Minimize cost, this could sell the concessions, because as far as concessions go, I'm picturing a bag of ice, some sunscreen, some bug spray. Whether or not we started renting out ice skates or, cross-country skis is another matter. But I mean, it's gonna have your food, your drink, everyone's gonna sit outside. I don't think too many people are going to the beach on a rainy day. They're gonna sit outside. You'd have some covered seating with however many small shelters we decide to go for.
so is that our recommendation, that we're gonna do something that's similar to what's pictured here, to be explored more, but more of a stand?
You could
a
say
permanent stand.
you would have to clarify or should clarify permanent structure. Seasonal offerings with non-indoor seating, so it'd be outdoor seating only, I think would be some of the clarifications you should include in a recommendation.
Cost-wise, that seems like what I would recommend, but, I mean, the things you're sacrificing are air conditioning, or a controlled climate, I should say, and potential for, being open in the winter. But I don't know if it's worth building a structure to be open in the winter if no one's gonna be there.
Well, and I think part of our design too and placement of this is if it is, not conditioned, heat or cooling, if it's hot, you go into the shady part of the park, and if it's cold, you go into the sunny part of the park. And if it's rainy and drizzly, well, then dress for it.
Or you go under the pavilion, well,
Or, yeah, you go,
and
yeah.
because we have pavilions everywhere.
And cost-wise, I don't think you need to have a ventilation system, which I think is upwards of about $200,000.
Depends what you're making.
Yeah,
If you have a
it depends
fryer.
on food prep and everything else
If
and
it's a-
requirements for
Yeah,
it.
we'll also, I mean, we'll have to figure out who's operating it.
But
Is it city employees that we're asking to do it, or are we trying to find a private sector partner?
But, I'm just only speaking for two places I know. Both of them are, one is at the Obert Park, where I don't know who those are employees of. I don't know if they're park
the
employees
city,
or are they volunteers of I don't know. And the other one is the union, Memorial Union, and I think those are employees of the union.
they are.
So to go to Drake's comment, you could explore that, or you could do it as a, vendor.
There could be volunteer organizations too. I mean, I picture the Lions Club shelter in Okachi area. There's a volunteer organization that does all the vending.
Yep.
Legion does the vending on their stand down here.
Well, and if you go to the basketball games, football games, a lot of those stands those are fundraiser
For the team.
organizations that are
Yeah.
in that stand. And what they have is a dispenser for a soda and water and cooler and hot dogs and hamburgers. And I think that, for me, I think that's something we should recommend, that they pursue something like that. And how it is, the personnel of it would be something that has to be explored, whether it be a city
Correct.
thing or be a
Yep.
private thing or be a volunteer. But I think for our recommendation for the food thing should be, I think that stand, similar to what's pictured there, is something that we should recommend the city pursue.
Is it possible to have this set up in alliance with the plaza so that basically the plaza?
It would be designed to fit cohesively.
So basically, so you'd have, would this one stand also be the concessions, or would you have a concessions, a bathroom, and a?
That's up to you guys to determine. I still would have the preference to have restrooms separate from an actual food vending station. Maybe handicap restrooms would be attached on a rear of a building like this, but your full large service restrooms, I would prefer to keep as a separate structure.
Okay.
So
But
if you look at the option 1 and 2 that we looked at our public information meeting, the possible 2-level concession shelter, which it does say possible as something to research
Love a
in
good
here.
sunset.
But if you look at the end of the picture that was drawn for us to be thinking about, that is like the concession stand, in my opinion, that you could open up the end, it faces the plaza. And to me, it's lower risk than a restaurant. It's a smaller area with a kitchen that gets you, I call it a bar-style kitchen, gets you enough stuff going on that if it doesn't work, you can pivot, you can rent it, I think finding businesses to come and supplement for a summer. I think you can do a lot of different things. Grab and go. You can turn it into a pre-made station. You can put vending machines in there if it really fell apart, and you put your $5 in and get the sandwich out the bucket. I don't know. There are different. I think that is and it could look like this Union Terrace. So you could have an open, cool thing, but to me and then you're using the footprint of that larger shelter. So behind it's like the Court Park concept-ish, but you're flipping things around.
that
a
was
little
the
bit,
initial
bathrooms.
intent behind it.
Yeah, so we talked about that last time we were all together, but I am supporting kind of what you're thinking, Tim, that the concession shelter / burger brat stand has some feasibility in my mind. I think the restaurant financials just don't work in the size of our city and location, but this gives you some destination to go, because everybody can eat food. everybody eats food, so that would be a draw to me, because I haven't gone to the beach since food hasn't been there, because that was my draw, is I would go get a bite to eat, because I don't have, kids
I
that,
know this specific stand serves thousands of people a day, so it has no problem keeping up. I kind of envision these two shelters built that are roughly 30 by 30, which would be 1,800 square feet, which would be the exact amount of shelter space we have now, and potentially this being 30 by 30 and looking exactly like those, but this one would be outfitted for gas, water, electric. And then ultimately, let's say I think it would be a great success, but let's say it doesn't work out, then ultimately it reverts back to a shelter that could be used for, gatherings or whatever. So even if this swing we're taking doesn't work out, we still have a shelter, and it costs us some gas lines and electric lines and plumbing. And I think that you could, in theory, lease this out to a private entity.
Yep.
And they can rent all their restaurant equipment. We could have a couple of stipulations saying, we need you to sell local drink, local food, the taste of Lake Mills, I believe you described it as.
well,
And like a
citizen
few,
said that.
and like, some requirements for hours, but then just kind of, we got you the building, you could pay us a lease every year.
So with those comments, I think we're coalescing it down to, our recommendation is what? That they, City of Lake Mills, consider the,
A permanent restaurant structure.
no, not a restaurant,
Permanent food structure.
I think a stand,
The brat stand / barbecue stand.
Yes.
That third
I
option
like
that's
that.
listed
yes, I think
Back to that,
you want to make it a stand,
conceptually.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think they can get the drift of
It
that.
could be hooked up to the
So
shelter.
let's go. But I
So
just think,
kind of
I think the big
concession
thing is,
shelter, but it's
it won't
called a
be, it
brat
won't be air
stand.
conditioned, it won't be heated, it will be a stand.
So would it be consistent with that overall recommendation language, pursue permanent structure to provide food and drink service options to park goers, is what I had listed on the overall recommendation
But
section.
not
But that-
full-service restaurant.
But a permanent structure, I'm mirroring the structure with a pavilion, a shelter. So a permanent structure to me is I'm putting a pole barn, or I'm doing a shipping container. So that's not the image I am thinking about today. So I'm saying I want to be
could-
careful that I like permanent structure, but I feel our details, like we're all talking about, are important.
You could say,
We can keep the picture in the recommendation
Yeah.
that gets forwarded.
Yeah, and I think you call it a food and beverage stand.
And just say we would explore opportunities to incorporate this into an existing structure or other planned structure at Sandy Beach Park if it worked, something like that.
Yeah.
if you want to couple it with a shelter like you were describing, so you could say, pursue permanent stand in relation to existing park shelter or building to provide food and drink service options to park goers.
Yeah.
If you want to retitle that recommendation to that.
So this shelter, like hypothetically, let's say this was attached to a shelter, like how much square footage are we looking for shelter areas in the park?
I don't quite know. I mean, what I based it on was basically in thirds. If we have a shelter split into thirds, 1/3 would be a vending or concession area, the other 2/3 would be shelter, is what I pictured.
Because right now we're at roughly 1,800. So if we build two 30 by 30 units, that's 1,800. And if we build, because we said 3 or 4, then we're at 2,700. And then if this is also a shelter that's the largest of all of them, you're looking at 5,000 square feet.
I think
total
that's up to
shelter.
determine what the layout would look like when we do engineering and put everything out.
Yeah.
And I think what's important is the Parks Board has identified the type of food service that you want to provide, and that is some kind of walk-up food service that has ideally adult beverages and grill / bar food, right? That you walk away with, you find a place to sit in the park at a picnic shelter, whatever that may be, and enjoy it there. How we, the final execution of that, I think, can still be fleshed out in the future, but that this is the type of food service that the Parks Board envisions at Sandy Beach. And now we just need to figure out how exactly to execute that.
Yeah, and I think what you said, Drake, we can include this picture and maybe another one.
Sure.
And
I mean, if you find other ones that support this recommendation that stick out to you, you can include it in your presentation to city council. I have described this model as ballpark style concessions or food. just to provide some scope.
I think that's a good descriptor. Yes,
So I should call it.
Anita, got your mic on?
I do.
All right.
So I'm in support of what's being discussed. To make a point, however, is I do see that it would have to be city employees or private sector partner. We are having a difficult time getting the Rotary concession stand staffed, and now with other people's demands on their time, I don't think we can really anticipate volunteers running this. I think it's real important that we don't go into this thinking that that will be feasible, because from what I'm hearing from other organizations, that would not be feasible.
Right, so part of the recommendation is using city or private staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be
I
my
agree.
recommendation.
Yep, that's a good
Yeah.
catch. Thank you, Anita.
Okay, so I took the liberty of trying to combine a few things, and I still have it called brat stand, barbecue stand, but we can call it you had a different term. I didn't-
Ballpark stand.
Ballpark food
Or you could say
stand.
ballpark-style concessions.
But I moved the rationale is that residents want food service at Sandy Beach. Okay, so that's description is a seasonal setup that offers this. So I took the barbecue brat stand language and kept it. A seasonal setup offers basic grilled sandwiches, sides, and cold beverages. I don't know if they're grilled, but I could put grilled. That would allow attendees to have a meal and eat at a shelter, the pavilion, or their picnic location. Like the food and beverage setup at UW Union Terrace, build a walk-up sheltered structure. And I don't know, I have to word this because we want to put it at the end of a pavilion possibly. But I was trying to combine the two, so you have to help me make sure I'm accurately describing what we're all thinking in our heads. Because Drake was making sure, recommending that we were specific enough to let the city council know what the vision was, rather than just feeling like restaurant. So walk up sheltered.
This might be a long shot, but can we write somewhere, explore feasibility of a second floor patio, or is that? No. Okay.
How come? No? You're saying no? I still like the
Here, Jim.
concept.
Trying to keep it cost effective, but it is not.
I do know that as soon as you include a second story, there are substantial costs associated with it for architecture and design.
Okay.
All right, so let's help Mary out here.
So I've got some repetitiveness, but what am I missing? And I can,
Build a permanent food stand.
permanent, thank you,
Slash
food
drink.
and beverage stand. That we will, because you were talking about working it into an integrated pavilion park.
I would say
not a
park
station.
shelter.
Shelter, not a station.
Well, I think if I'm hearing what Eric said, and again, not to limit us by design, I think we want to make it so the structure of this place is probably standalone, but it's so if you want to go into the pavilion, you can. If you want to go to the woods, you can. If you want to go to the beach, you can. So it's not, it's just more of a place where get your food and beverage and ice cream, cone, and popcorn, whatever it would be, and then be able to go from there. So I think if we keep it away as attached,
It's an extension of the park, I guess.
yes.
Would you
Versus
also
the other
call
way
this
around.
the concession stand?
Yeah, I think we're calling, I think that's what we call it, a stand, that it's standalone. And you can get to where you want to with your food.
Okay.
Integrate as an extension to pavilion, shall park, integrate as an extension.
I don't think you want an extension. I just think it's just.
I would just say integrate, honestly. Leave
Yeah,
it at
just integrate it with the other amenities. Be they shelter, be they
Yeah.
picnic tables, be they
Other
whatever.
park amenities, maybe just leave it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I missed you. Oh,
Just say, to integrate with the other park amenities maybe, and just drop it off,
I think that's fine.
I would also, can we write maybe as seen in the photograph, just to kind of give a general idea of what we're talking about?
See attached example or something like
photograph.
that?
Tim, you can include that in your presentation to council as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
You can provide some
I would just leave it.
clarification.
Yeah, I would just leave it as that.
Okay. Okay, so then I have a little wordsmithing to do on, gosh, this is it. We are on the end, aren't we? This is our last one.
No, we're not on the end.
Shoot.
We're at end where we can prepare our
Okay, seasonal
recommendation.
stuff that offers basic. Okay, well, can I,
Bold that? Oh, wait.
shelter, storage house, grill.
I can't read
Yeah,
the
I think
screen.
I just have everything, I just am repetitive, so.
Okay.
Build a walk-up shelter structure to house. Okay, we're just gonna do this. Oh, yeah, we're all kind of hitting the brick wall.
So you can thank Anita for calling the break, because I think we're getting a bit squirrely.
Period. Okay, like the food and beverage set up at UW Unitaris, build a walk-up sheltered structure, period. I already said food
Wonderful.
and beverage, okay, done.
All right, wonderful.
Okay. And their
thank you for that.
alternatives are food truck, plaza, and we're getting rid of these, right? We're getting rid
I
of concession.
delete those tables, then just have one table for
Yep.
food and beverage service.
Is it important to include the phrase like open air ventilation stand?
At this point, it would be an expectation if you provide
I think if you just say
background
stand and do
clarification.
That's sufficient,
example,
okay.
we should be fine.
Okay, so I can take this overall recommendations off?
Yes,
Okay,
wonderful.
that was it,
Wonderful.
page 13.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Now,
Lucky 13.
so here, Dragan, please correct me if I'm wrong, but right now this was our discussion part of this. Now we're looking at the recommendation.
Yeah, and it can be as simple as you make a motion to adopt this document.
As recommendation
As someone moves to recommend, the Parks Board, does this document have a title? Oh, not really. Parks Board recommends to forward the Sandy Beach recreational amenity recommendations. The Park Board moves to forward its recommendations regarding Sandy Beach Park recreational amenities as discussed. And then you'll forward this document.
So the entire document or recommendations as bolded?
You could do either. You could forward them this entire document.
Okay,
I don't see a problem forwarding the entire document.
okay, that's fine.
I think it shows that you considered alternatives, you considered risks, you're describing the issue that you're recommending a solution to. I think the document came together relatively nicely.
Okay, so then let's look at two things. What are we titling said document?
I would just say Parks Board recommendations for recreational amenities at Sandy Beach.
Okay,
Okay, what are we calling it?
Parks
Very
Board recommendations, we can go ahead and retitle at the very top page.
What is it?
My suggestion would be Parks Board recommendations for recreational amenities at Sandy Beach Park.
Thank you.
I can make it look much more beautiful, or you can. Somebody.
right.
So now I think we just need a motion and a roll call.
well, and the second thing is, do we need to, so we titled it, and now, yeah, let's do the motion as Drake put it, or Eric, you just said that our motion is to send this as discussed, these recommendations to the city council.
Yeah, I think now that you've titled it, your motion can be motion to forward the Parks Board recommendations for recreational amenities at Sandy Beach Park. You can add as discussed to city council.
Discussed and documented or something like that. No, Anita, this is the
Got
part,
that?
yeah. So
Someone just has to make the motion.
Yeah, so Anita, when you're ready, just could you read the motion and then we'll,
Okay. Motion, I move to forward the Parks Board recommendations for recreational amenities at Sandy Beach Park as discussed and documented to the city council.
wonderful.
Do we have to say the date we're forwarding? No.
No,
just- okay.
that would be fine.
So we have a motion to have a second to that motion.
I'm second.
All right, so do we have a vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion to forward the Parks Board recommendations to the city council is approved as motioned. So thank you very much.
So now I'm going to stop typing.
Thank you.
I just do want to note, we did not get a chance, but I know we are running on a very light candle right now. We don't have issues, risks on the food side, the very last slide. Oh, we got a clap. We have Randy Anderson giving us some kudos over here. I see him on the screen.
What I can do is I can draft some in this document if you send it to me, Mary, and then I can run it by Tim before we forward it.
Okay, yeah, I think we just didn't get a chance to finish
Yep.
two little pieces. I didn't want them to be outstanding, so if you would, that would be great.
That would be
Good
fine.
catch, Ray.
I will clear it with Tim then.
Do we have to do a new motion as amended or updated?
I think
or-
it's,
Recommendations would stay the same.
Recommendation.
All right,
won't
we're good then.
change.
So the next part on the agenda is announcements. Any announcements?
None.
So create next meeting agenda items. So, one, we have a continued discussion of the resolution. I don't think we need to do that anymore, correct?
Ideally not.
All right. And then the other one is introduce and review procedure for comprehensive outdoor recreation plan.
That is the next assignment that we will be tasked with for the remainder of the year.
Okay?
I will introduce the current corp to all of you, and I believe I have forwarded that to all of you, and if you need it again, I can as well. But I would expect to review that, and we can begin discussions at the next meeting.
Right. And then any other things to add to the August 12th agenda?
Not on my list, no.
Right. Anyone else? Anita?
So then am I understanding that you are presenting to the city council on August 5th? Is that,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
With the next, I thought I saw it on the schedule, the Fayetteville basketball court replacing the volleyball, was that on the agenda?
We can add it.
It would be in future capital improvement requests for budgeting processes.
I was hoping to talk about adding, replacing the volleyball court at Fayetteville with a basketball court.
All right, thank you. Any other agenda items? All right, if not, the next meeting is 5:30 Monday, August 12th, and we are adjourned at 8:42.
document sent, Eric.